Chapter 6:25. Later, when Li Changsheng sat there and listened, no one had any objections. Instead, many people asked for Li Changsheng's opinion. However, Li Changsheng knew nothing about business, so he could only shake his head and wave his hand. After the meeting ended, a group of senior executives walked out of the conference room. The young man who had a crush on Yishuang was hit hard by Li Changsheng. He was dejected like a defeated rooster. The general manager of Junka Group, Ren Juntang, also came to Beijing today. "Mr. Li, would you like to meet him?" Yi Haoran looked up and down at Li Changsheng. He still didn't understand the relationship between Li Changsheng and his daughter. He hoped that Li Changsheng could become his son-in-law. After all, where could he find such an excellent person? Li Changsheng felt uncomfortable under Yi Haoran's gaze. He smiled and said, "No need. I have given him full authority to handle the affairs of Junka Group. I'm only responsible for collecting money every year. I don't care about anything else." "Changsheng, you really know how to be a hands-off shopkeeper." Yi Haoran laughed. "It's my treat today. Book a private room in the best restaurant in Beijing." Yi Haoran was about to make a call. "Dad, it's better to come home and have a family gathering." Speaking of this, Yishuang couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng next to her. Her face was a little red. When she said family, she included Li Changsheng. Seeing that Li Changsheng's face didn't change, she breathed a sigh of relief. Yi Haoran later noticed Yishuang's choice of words. He couldn't help but laugh and said, "Okay, then let's go home and eat. I will ask your mother to cook." The few of them left the Golden Tree Group and saw the security guards looking inside. Yi Haoran couldn't help but frown and reprimand them. "You are my Golden Tree Group security guards. Why are you acting so sneakily? Why are you gathering here instead of patrolling?" Being reprimanded by Yi Haoran, the security captain and his subordinates were scared and shrank their necks. "Uncle, he's probably waiting for me. At that time, I had a good chat with him. I said that I would talk to him later when I came out." Li Changsheng casually explained for the security captain. "Really?" Yi Haoran smiled. "Changsheng, you're so approachable. You can chat so happily with a security guard. Let's chat another day." Li Changsheng waved at the security guard captain, then got into the MPV with Yi Haoran and his daughter and left. When the car disappeared from everyone's sight, the security captain puffed out his chest and looked at his subordinates behind him. "Did you see that? I didn't lie to you. He's really Chairman Ye's boyfriend. You heard what he said just now. The chairman's son-in-law. He treats me as a friend." Several security guards nodded one after another, thinking to themselves, the chairman's son-in-law is a big shot. How come he shares the same stink with this security captain, chatting so happily? I really don't understand. When they returned to the Yi family's mansion, Yishuang's mother personally cooked. The few of them sat together and ate happily. During the meal, Yi Haoran asked, "Changsheng, how did you settle the matter in the central region of the Heavenly Tao Alliance?" Yi Haoran wasn't a cultivator, but with the Yi family's strength, he still had some understanding of the cultivation world. The Heavenly Tao Alliance was a super force. The central region had their eyes on the Yi family's property. Yi Haoran was prepared to hand over his property and leave the capital at any time. He didn't expect Li Changsheng to settle it so easily. Moreover, the great elder of the central region of the Heavenly Tao Alliance had personally come to apologize. Yi Haoran was almost shocked. "I've joined the Heavenly Tao Alliance as a guest elder in the northern region. I went to them and told them about my relationship with the Yi family, so they promised not to cause any trouble for the Yi family. They also felt deeply sorry for their previous actions, so they came to apologize." Li Changsheng spoke casually. However, Yi Haoran knew that there must be something hidden. After all, even if Li Changsheng was an elder in the northern region of the Heavenly Tao Alliance and could make the central region give up on attacking the Yi family, the great elder of the central region had personally come to apologize. This wasn't something that could be done by ordinary means. Naturally, Yi Haoran was a smart person. He didn't ask too much about this. During the meal, he repeatedly toasted Li Changsheng. By the time the meal was over, Yi Haoran's eyes had turned hazy. He staggered as he walked. Clearly, he had drunk a little too much. On the other hand, Li Changsheng's eyes were clear. He acted as if nothing had happened. It was as if he was drinking cold water. In a few days, I will be leaving the capital to attend a friend's wedding. Do you want to come with me? Hearing Li Changxing's words, Yishuang hesitated for a moment. In the end, however, she shook her head. Recently, the company has just passed through a storm. There are many things that I have to deal with. I won't be able to leave for a while. Yishuang said regretfully. In fact, she really wanted to accompany Li Changsheng to attend the wedding. This was undoubtedly equivalent to Li Changsheng announcing their relationship to the public. However, she was now the general manager of the Golden Tree Group. There were many responsibilities on her shoulders. Naturally, there were restrictions on what she could do. She couldn't do as she pleased. In the next few days, Li Changsheng accompanied Yishuang to walk around. Then they set off for Suzhou. Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen weren't dispensable characters in Li Changsheng's life in this life. For the two of them to be able to tie the knot, Li Changsheng was sincerely happy for them. The distance between the capital and Suzhou wasn't far. Li Changsheng didn't bring Zhou Hong because he needed to consolidate his cultivation. However, Azu took the initiative to ask to travel with Li Changsheng. Ever since she came to the capital with her master, Lu Chong, to guard the villa in the suburbs for Li Changsheng, Lu Chong forced her to practice martial arts every day. Lu Chong had high hopes for this disciple of his. Azu stayed in the villa on the mountain. She didn't even have the chance to walk around the capital. This time, she was able to go out with Li Changsheng in the name of gaining experience. If it were someone else, Lu Chong would naturally be worried. However, Lu Chong was actually very willing to follow Li Changsheng. After all, Li Changsheng's martial arts realm was there. If he could give Azu a few pointers, it would undoubtedly be very beneficial for Azu. However, although Li Changsheng was able to take a breather in the outside world, Azu's attitude towards Li Changsheng was still cold. Her father and sister both died because of Li Changsheng. If she were to be close to Li Changsheng like a friend, it would probably be very difficult for her to do so in this life. In this regard, Li Changsheng naturally didn't care. Although Azu couldn't overcome the hurdle in her heart, she wasn't an evil person. No matter how high her martial arts cultivation was in the future, she wouldn't indiscriminately kill the innocent. Li Changsheng wasn't worried that she would hurt her family and friends. If he hadn't seen through this point, Azu might have already died under Li Changsheng's hands, let alone practicing in his villa. Li Changsheng wasn't an evil person, but he wasn't a simple-minded, kind person either. In his heart, he also had his own set of rules. As long as his bottom line wasn't touched, Li Changsheng was generally relatively kind. Chapter 626. After leaving Mount Jiuhua, Li Changsheng took Zhou Hong back to Qin City. At this time, Wei Gingqiu had also returned. Li Changsheng met with Wei Gingqiu and told him some things. Then he went to the university to find Yu Wei and play with Yu Wei for a few days. Now Yu Wei was a famous talented girl on the university campus. She showed off her talent in a poetry competition held by the university recently. After spending a few days with Yu Wei, Li Changsheng took Zhou Hong back to the capital. Zhou Hong had been practicing the withering with spring technique these days and had entered the best state. Between each breath, there was a strong vitality coming out of his body. In Li Changsheng's opinion, it would not take long for him to reach the peak of the innate realm and enter the Vajra realm. Once he entered the Vajra realm, he would be at the peak of martial arts in the world. That was the real top expert. At that time, Li Changsheng would officially accept him as his disciple. Master, didn't you say we were going to your big villa in the suburbs of the capital? Why are we in the city? The two of them left the train station and took a taxi to a building in the city. Before coming, he had contacted Yi Shuang through the phone. He knew that Yi Shuang was now in charge of the Yi family's company and was a famous, beautiful president in the upper-class circle of the capital. The capital was the economic and cultural center of the country. It was a modern metropolis, so it was especially congested. It took more than 2 hours to walk from the train station to the Yi family's Golden Tree building. Even though Zhou Hong had been practicing the withering with spring technique these days and had become calmer, he could not help but sigh when he saw the tortoise-like taxi after being stuck in the traffic for such a long time. That's why it's not easy to live in the capital. Li Changxing smiled. If he hadn't been in a taxi, he would have regretted it. If he had walked, with his and Zhou Hong's speed, they would have been sitting in Yi Shuang's office drinking tea. 2.5 hours later, they arrived at the parking lot in front of the Golden Tree Building. The Golden Tree Building was built by the Yi family, where the head office was located. It was one of the landmark buildings in the capital. To be able to own such a building in this place, where every inch of land was worth an inch of gold, the Yi family's wealth was obvious. After paying for the taxi, Li Changsheng led Zhou Hong directly to the entrance of the building and sat down on the steps. Just now, he had sent a message to Yi Shuang. Yi Shuang said that she would come down soon. He did not intend to go in. This was Yi Shuang's company. As a manager of the company, Yi Shuang's every move would be watched. If a man went to look for her, coupled with Li Changsheng's closeness to Yi Shuang, it would probably cause a lot of rumors. The two of them sat on the steps. Li Changsheng casually took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. "Hello, who are you people? Why are you sitting here? Also, you can't smoke here." A middle-aged man in a security uniform walked over. "Really?" When Li Changsheng heard this, he put the cigarette back into the box and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. What you two do? This is the office building of the Golden Tree Group. If there's nothing else, you should leave quickly." The middle-aged man said coldly. His behavior and expression were somewhat arrogant. Although he was only a security captain who did not know the power of the Yi family in the capital, in front of the Prime Minister's door was a 7th-grade official. Moreover, in his opinion, the two guys sitting on the steps, the slightly more handsome one with 2 long knives on his back, was strange. It was as if he had run out of a mental hospital. As for the one next to him, although he was slightly normal, looking at his dressing, he looked like a bumpkin. He sat on the steps in front of the company and did not go in. He was definitely not a guest of the company. Of course, he could not let them affect the appearance of the Golden Tree Group. It was better to drive them away quickly. "We are waiting for a friend here. She will come down soon." Li Changsheng smiled. When he smiled, the arrogance on the security guard's face became even stronger. He thought to himself, "Sure enough, I guessed right. These two guys don't look like customers who came to the company to discuss business. If they were customers, how could they be so polite to a security guard like me? What do they say about coming to the metal group to look for someone? Even if they were looking for someone, why do they need to sit on the steps? Couldn't they just go directly into the hall?" It was clear that they were 2 bumpkins from nowhere. They wanted to see the Golden Tree Group and ran to the steps. If he did not appear in time, he was afraid that they would take a selfie with their mobile phones as a souvenir. After all, the Golden Tree Group was a big company under the Yi family. It was very famous in the capital. "I say, you two, if you want to take a photo under the Golden Tree Building as a souvenir, then I'll give you 1 minute. Quickly take a photo and leave. This is the Golden Tree Group. Although it's not a problem for you to sit here, but if the company's leaders see this and are unhappy, then they will blame me, the security captain, and it will be difficult for me." The head of security tried his best to persuade him. Usually, he could only bow and scrape in front of those big shots in the company. Today, he finally met 2 country bumpkins. He always felt that this security captain was not a small official and could also put on the attitude of a superior. "Big brother, we are really waiting for someone here. She will come down soon. This is a box of cigarettes. You can take it and smoke first." Li Changsheng often heard that when he met this kind of gatekeeper, giving a box of cigarettes and a few money often had a miraculous effect. Sure enough, when the other party saw Li Changsheng take out a box of Zhonghua cigarettes, his eyes suddenly lit up and his face showed embarrassment. "We just met. How can I ask for your cigarettes?" Although he said so, his hand was very honest and took the cigarette. He laughed and said, "Little brother, you must have just entered the city. You want to take a photo in front of the Golden Tree Building as a souvenir. I can understand that. After all, the Golden Tree Building is one of the iconic buildings in the capital. How about it? Do you want me to take a photo for you?" "No need. We are really waiting for a friend." Li Changsheng emphasized again. "Well, but brother, you can't stay here for too long. I will wait here with you. If your friend doesn't come down in half an hour, then you can't stay here anymore. Otherwise, if the company's leaders see you, I will be scolded again." The security guard was reluctant to open the box of Zhonghua cigarettes given by Li Changsheng and put it in his pocket. Then he took out half a box of yellow Crane Tower cigarettes from another pocket and handed one to Li Changsheng. When he was about to give it to Zhou Hong, Li Changsheng waved his hand to indicate that Zhou Hong did not smoke. Then he put the cigarette in his mouth and lit it. "Didn't you say that smoking is not allowed here?" Li Changsheng asked with a smile. Only then did the security guard remember that he had just reprimanded Li Changsheng. He was a little embarrassed, but soon his face returned to normal and said, "Rules are dead. People are alive." Li Changsheng also returned a smile and lit a cigarette. The two sat on the steps and chatted casually. The security guard captain was also a talkative person. After being flattered by Li Changsheng, he was a little complacent. Later, he patted his chest and said that in the Golden Tree Group, even their manager had to call him brother. He had a lot of power in Beijing. Li Changxing nodded in agreement, with a serious look on his face. After smoking a cigarette, Li Changxing patted the ash that fell on his clothes and stood up. The security guard captain laughed and said, "How is it, little brother? I knew you were talking nonsense at that time. You know people in the group. In this company, even a small security guard in our security team has to have a college degree. I didn't lie to you. Look, my friend is coming down." Li Changshang smiled and pointed to the entrance of the building. "You really have a friend." The security guard captain looked back and did not see anyone. When he was about to say that Li Changsheng lied to him, he saw two doors in the distance open and a beautiful figure came out. Chapter 6:27. It was a gentle and elegant middle-aged man in a suit. His hair was combed back, and the golden ring on his right finger was particularly eye-catching as it shone brightly. After he appeared, the brawny men who had been knocked down immediately got up from the ground and stood respectfully on both sides. There were a few brawny men behind him, all of whom regarded him as their leader. Obviously, he was the leader of this group of people. After he walked in, he first glanced at the people in the room without leaving a trace. Finally, when he saw the men with bruises on their faces, he frowned slightly. "Boss, we chased them in. They started it first." A subordinate who had been beaten into a sorry state reported to the middle-aged man while pointing at Gao Chong. He was the one who started it. The middle-aged man nodded and scolded, "Trash." Then he looked at Gao Chong. "My men didn't know the rules and broke into your room, causing you inconvenience. I apologize to you first." Hearing the other party's words, Gao Chong snorted coldly, thinking that the other party was afraid of him. His expression became more and more complacent. Unexpectedly, the other party continued, "But you hurt my men first. This is another debt. Take 200,000 yuan of medical expenses and apologize to my men separately. Then we'll write off this matter. How about it?" As soon as the other party finished speaking, Gao Chong scolded, "Bullsh *T. Your men couldn't beat the two of us because they weren't good enough. Seeing that you're reasonable, I didn't want to argue with you. But I didn't expect you to ask me to pay. I definitely don't have the money. If you're not convinced, I'll let you have a taste of my fist." Gao Chong waved his fist, feeling that he was the brightest one in the room at this moment. "In that case, I can only seek justice for my brother." The middle-aged man smiled gently and wasn't angry. He just unbuttoned his suit and took it off. He clenched his fist and hooked his finger at Gao Chong. Gao Chong suddenly became furious and raised his fist to hit the middle-aged man. But just as he moved, the other party quickly grabbed his wrist and then hit Gao Chang's abdomen with his knee. Gao Chong, who was still alive and kicking just now, fell to the ground, directly holding his stomach. His moves were straightforward and nimble, without the slightest hesitation. He defeated the enemy with one strike, displaying his powerful skills and attack power. At this moment, Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen stood out at the same time, but they didn't act rashly, because they could determine that the middle-aged man's strength wasn't something they could deal with. "I want to talk to you nicely, but you didn't listen. You wanted me to attack. How annoying." The middle-aged man shook his head. Looking at Gao Chong, who was curled up like a shrimp on the ground, he ordered his men, "Take this guy out and break his leg as punishment." "Wait." At this moment, a voice sounded. Wang Dongsheng stepped forward. Although Gao Chong was a little reckless back then, he was still Wang Dongxing's friend. Wang Dongxing couldn't just watch him get his leg broken. What? You want to stop me? The middle-aged man sneered. You were the one who attacked just now. Don't worry, after breaking his legs, it will be your turn. Wang Dongxing already knew that he was no match for his opponent, but there was no reason for him to retreat. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a figure standing in front of him. It was Li Changsheng. Originally, Li Changsheng didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but since Wang Dongxing was involved, he had no choice but to step forward. His opponent's strength had reached the Grandmaster realm. Even if Wang Dongxing and Jin Wenwen joined forces, they would definitely be no match for him. Seeing Li Changsheng step forward, Wang Dongxing's heart settled down, and he obediently retreated to the side. The others in the field were curious. They wanted to see what was so special about this young man, who could be Wang Dongxing's coach. Ning Xin and the others were looking forward to it and were a little excited. They were also aware of Li Changsheng's strength. Seeing Li Changsheng step forward, the middle-aged man couldn't help but frown, because in his eyes, Li Changsheng's footsteps were unsteady, and he didn't have the fierce aura of a martial artist. He was more like an ordinary person. However, an ordinary person dared to step forward after seeing his strength. Could it be that he had some special family background? The middle-aged man didn't speak, but waited for Li Changsheng to speak. Li Changsheng just made a gesture of invitation and said lightly, "Make your move. If you lose, take your people and leave here obediently. If you win, I'll give you 200,000 yuan. You can break anyone's legs you want." Li Changsheng's words stunned the other party. He originally thought that Li Changsheng would come up to introduce himself, but he didn't expect that he wanted to fight with him. In his eyes, Li Changsheng was clearly an ordinary person who didn't know martial arts. Unless Li Changsheng's martial arts realm had reached an unfathomable level, how could he not see any clues? But how old was the other party? How could he be more powerful than him? The middle-aged man had always thought highly of himself. He thought that his martial arts was already a master of a generation. There were very few people in the world who could beat him, so he waved his hand. "Young man, I just want to find trouble with the person who injured my subordinates. You'd better not force yourself. If I make a move, you can only lie in bed for the rest of the year." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Li Changsheng said lightly, "Based on what you said, I'll be merciful later." Hearing that, the middle-aged man couldn't help but laugh. "Ha! Interesting, interesting. I've seen many people who don't know the vastness of the world, but you're the first one who's as ignorant as you." With that, the middle-aged man took 2 steps forward and put his hands behind his back. "Young man, I'll let you make 3 moves. If you can hurt me, it'll be my loss. How about that?" Arrogant. Very arrogant. He didn't take Li Changsheng seriously at all. "Are you sure?" Li Changsheng's eyes flashed with a hint of playfulness. At that moment, the middle-aged man suddenly had a bad premonition. However, he had already said it. Moreover, he had already determined that Li Changsheng was an ordinary person who didn't know any martial arts, so he nodded his head. "All right then." Before he finished speaking, Li Changsheng's body had already rushed out like a cheetah. His fist brought with it the sound of the wind. The middle-aged man's face changed color. He cursed in his heart and wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Following that, he felt as if his body was hit by a speeding car. His whole body flew backward all the way out of the room and landed heavily on the floor of the corridor. Boom! The floor under his feet shook. At that moment, everyone's mouths were wide open. They were completely dumbfounded. Li Changsheng's small body actually contained such explosive power, it was simply inconceivable. Chapter 628. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded, not only because Li Changsheng defeated the middle-aged man, but more importantly, Li Changsheng's punch sent the middle-aged man flying a few meters. Li Changsheng's thin and weak body was very different from the middle-aged man's, but he achieved such an effect. It was like a stunt in a TV series. Everyone looked at Li Changsheng in a daze. For a moment, the whole room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was shocked. The middle-aged man's subordinates swallowed subconsciously. Gao Chang, who had fallen to the ground, barely got up while clutching his stomach. He just happened to see the scene of the middle-aged man being sent flying. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Originally, he looked down on Li Changsheng, but now he understood the gap between him and Li Changsheng. He used to think that karate was better than Chinese martial arts. When he thought of the toast with Li Changsheng just now, he said that he wanted to ask Li Changsheng for advice. Now that he thought about it, it was ridiculous to the extreme. After a full 5 or 6 minutes, everyone in the room finally reacted. At this time, the middle-aged man also got up from the ground, but his eyes were full of shock when he looked at Li Changsheng. It was not only the strength that Li Changsheng showed when he sent him flying, but also the fact that he found that there were no injuries on his body, only some faint pain on his skin. Logically speaking, under such a powerful force, his ribs should have been broken. There was only one possibility: Li Changsheng was really merciful. For a person to control his strength to such a fine point and send people flying without hurting them, such a method was simply amazing. The middle-aged man originally thought that he had reached the Grandmaster realm by combining strength and gentleness. No matter how big the world was, he would be a top expert no matter where he went. It was not until he saw Li Changsheng's strength that he realized how ridiculous his idea was. "Sir, you are very strong. I am sincerely convinced. Thank you for being merciful." The middle-aged man cupped his hands. He knew the gap between him and Li Changsheng. Just now, Li Changsheng was merciful. If he provoked him again, he was afraid that he would die miserably. "Let's go. Keep your subordinates in check in the future." Li Changsheng casually waved his hand. Such a person was not qualified to be taken seriously by him. "My name is Xing Mingjue. I opened a dojo in Suzhou. Sir, you are welcome to visit any time." After the other party finished speaking, he cupped his hands in salute according to the Jianghu etiquette and turned to leave. The group of brawny men followed behind him. As for the man who was knocked to the ground by them at the beginning, he stood up with a bloody nose and a swollen face and limped out of the room. It wasn't until the other party had completely disappeared that the people in the private room exclaimed in surprise. In particular, the girls were sizing up Li Changsheng from head to toe. They couldn't wait to tear off Li Changsheng's clothes to see how such a small body could contain such a powerful force. Several men also gave Li Changsheng a thumbs up, full of admiration. Azu secretly curled her lips and thought to herself, "These guys are really a group of frogs at the bottom of a well. They haven't seen the world." Li Changsheng only defeated a Wu Dao master. Is it necessary to be so surprised? Indeed, Azu was now in the innate realm. A Wu Dao master was not qualified in her eyes at all. They then went to the KTV together. Li Changsheng, who was not originally the main character, became the focus of everyone's attention at this time. Ningxin took the initiative to talk to Li Changsheng, while Sharon's eyes kept rolling. No one knew what she was thinking. They played until very late before going back. Wang Dongsheng arranged a hotel for them. Early the next morning, Wei Hu came to Suzhou. When he saw Li Changsheng, he kept smiling foolishly. Li Changsheng observed for a while and found that Wei Hu had stepped into the master realm. In comparison, Wei Hu's talent was not the best among the 3 members of the martial arts club. Now, he was one step ahead of Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen. But after thinking about it carefully, it could be understood. Wang Dongsheng was the son of a rich family and was destined to inherit the family business. Jin Wenwen was a woman after all. She could be admitted to a foreign university to study abroad, which meant that she would put most of her attention on her studies. Relatively speaking, Wei Hu was more pure. Moreover, Wei Hu was strong and could be considered talented. It was not surprising that he was one step ahead of the other two. The path of martial arts had its own opportunities. For Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen, martial arts was not the most important thing in their lives after all. Wei Hu's martial arts strength had skyrocketed. Recently, his momentum had been strong, and he gave people a sense of oppression when he spoke. Someone quietly asked Wei Hu whether he was stronger or Li Changsheng. Wei Hu just stretched out 2 hands. That person did not understand why. So Wei Hu explained, Tenwei Hus would not be enough to slap Coach Li. Everyone suddenly had a better understanding of Li Changsheng's strength. After Xing Mingjue was defeated by Li Changsheng, he returned to his martial arts club with his subordinates dejectedly. Xing Mingjue had reached the master realm and was already an expert among ordinary martial artists. Although today's defeat had caused his martial arts to suffer a setback, it also made him put away his arrogance. After returning to the martial arts club, he had a faint breakthrough and his strength had reached a new level. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. He sat in the room and closed his eyes, recalling the scene of the battle with Li Changsheng. He frowned and still could not understand the profound meaning of Li Changsheng's punch. The reason why experts were experts was that they could learn from every battle and improve. Xing Mingjue was one of the best. Unfortunately, Li Changsheng's punch was too brilliant and was not something he could understand at all. Just as Xing Mingjue was feeling distressed, a subordinate came in and reported, "Club Master, Mr. Bai is here." "Mr. Bai?" Xing Mingjue's face showed some joy. He hurriedly stood up and walked out of the room. He saw an old man in white training clothes quickly walk in. "Brother Xing, I haven't seen you for many years. I heard that you've reached the Master Realm and opened a martial arts club and sect. Congratulations. Brother Bai has been a Master Realm martial artist for a long time. I've just caught up to you." Xing Mingjue chuckled. He stepped forward and took the old man's hand. They walked into the hall together. Immediately, a subordinate served tea to them. "Brother Bai has been developing in the south for the past few years. Why have you come to Suzhou this time? What a rare guest." Xing Mingjue sized up the middle-aged man in front of him. Before the two of them broke through to the Master Realm, they had a martial arts competition. Later, they admired each other's skills and turned from enemies to friends. They improved together. Now, one of them was in the north and the other was in the south. They were called the leaders of the northern and southern Millennia by the secular martial artists. Me, one of my disciples got married and moved to Suzhou. The wedding is going to be held tomorrow. As her master, I naturally have to come. I also wanted to take a look at Brother Xing. Looking at Brother Xing's temperament, could it be that your martial arts have improved again? Why don't you have a try? Bai Henian suddenly reached out and hit Xing Mingjue's chest. Xing Mingjue hurriedly raised his hand to fight back. While blocking Bai Henian's attack, his fingers grabbed Bai Henian's cheek like two dragons playing with a pearl. Bai Henian hurriedly waved his hand to block. His arm hit the two fingers and the chair under him shattered. However, Bai Henian's body did not fall to the ground with the chair. He seemed to be sitting on the chair, but in fact his butt was always 1 centimeter away from the chair. He was practicing martial arts when he was walking, sitting, or lying down. Haha, it seems that your martial arts have really improved. You made me lose a move as soon as you made a move. Bai Henian sighed with emotion. The two of them stopped at the same time. Xing Mingjue asked his subordinate to bring a new chair. Bai Henian was older than Xing Mingjue and had practiced martial arts for a longer time. He was originally ahead of Xing Mingjue, but this time he found that he had fallen behind Xing Mingjue. He could not help but feel a little disappointed. If Brother Bai had come to Suzhou yesterday, I might have tied with Brother Bai at most. "Oh, so, Brother Xing, you just broke through today?" "Yes, I met a young man today and had a fight with him. As a result, he was very powerful and sent me flying with 1 punch. If he hadn't shown mercy, I'm afraid I would be lying in a hospital bed now. This martial arts competition has sharpened my spirit and allowed me to take another step forward. So that's how it is. I just don't know who this young man is and how he has such strength. I don't know his name, but this person is very likely to have reached the legendary innate realm. Even if you and I join forces, we can't survive 1 move in his hands." Hearing Xing Mingjue's words, Bai Henian could not help but shake his head. "Brother Xing, the other party can defeat you, so he must be a top master. But you and I are both gurus. It's a bit exaggerated that we can't survive 1 move in his hands." Xing Mingjue sighed. "If I hadn't done it myself, I wouldn't have believed that there would be such a strong person in the world. That person's strength is really high. Now that you mention it, I also want to see the other party's skills and see if he is as powerful as Brother Xing said. It's a pity that I don't know his name and don't know where to find him." Bai Hinian said with some regret. Chapter 629. I've been so busy these days that I've only come to visit you now. Please don't blame me. Wang Dongxing's father, Wang Heng, came to visit Li Changsheng shortly after he returned to the hotel. Wang Dongxing's brother, Wang Dongxiu, and Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen were also with him. Li Changsheng was of noble status, and the Wang family was indebted to him. Naturally, Wang Heng did not dare to neglect him. Uncle Wang, you're welcome. I'm Dongxing's friend. Dongxing's wedding is around the corner, and he has a lot of work to do. How can I blame you? Li Changxing smiled. He was not being polite to Wang Heng, but telling the truth. If he didn't treat Wang Dongsheng as a friend, he wouldn't have come to the wedding. That's good, that's good. Wang Heng was still a little reserved in front of Li Changsheng. After all, Li Changxing's identity was there. By the way, Wenwen's master is also in Shuazhou. He wants to see Mr. Li. I'll arrange for him to sit with you tomorrow. How about that? Okay. Li Changxing nodded. Jin Wenwen had been learning martial arts since she was a child. She had a master who practiced Xingyi boxing. Her master heard from Jin Wenwen that Li Changsheng was powerful, so he wanted to see Li Changsheng. However, he never had the chance. Now that Jin Wenwen was getting married, he happened to meet him. My master is the #1 martial arts master of the Southern Sect. He's very arrogant. I told him a few days ago that Mr. Li is powerful, but he's not convinced. When he meets you this time, he might ask to learn from you. Mr. Li, you must be merciful. Jin Wenwen begged. She knew that although her master was powerful, he was not on the same level as Li Changsheng. Don't worry. Li Changxing smiled. Since the other party was Jin Wenwen's master, he would not be merciful. Thank you in advance, Coach Li. Because it was getting late, Jin Wenwen and the others left. The next morning, Li Changsheng took Azu to the hotel where the wedding was held. The Wang family was also a big family in Suzhou, so there were many guests. Li Changsheng was arranged to sit at the innermost table. At the same table were Ning Xian and Xiaoran, Su Yang, and Lin Cohen. Wei Hu was naturally at the same table as Li Changsheng. An old man in a white training suit was arranged to sit next to Li Changsheng. With Jin Wenwen's reminder last night, Li Changxing naturally knew that this was Jin Wenwen's master. However, the other party obviously didn't know Li Changsheng. He just sat there and didn't speak. Because of the other party's solemn expression, Wang Dongxing's friends at the same table didn't dare to talk to him. As they arrived early, they waited for more than half an hour before the wedding officially began. Jin Wenwen's parents were both relatively young. After the process was over, Jin Wenwen and her father came down to propose a toast. The first one they came to was Li Changxing's table. Bai Hinian was Jin Wenwen's master. He had taught Jin Wenwen martial arts since she was a child. He was like half a father to her. Li Changsheng was the Wang family's benefactor and the coach of Wang Dongsheng and Jin Wenwen. Therefore, the second one they proposed a toast to was Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, thank you for coming to our wedding banquet. I wish you two be respectful to each other, help each other in times of need, and grow old together. After Li Changsheng finished his blessing, he drank the wine in one gulp. As soon as he sat down, Bai Hinian said, "You are Wenwen and Dongxing's coach?" Wenwen said, "You are very strong, but I don't believe it. After the banquet, why don't we find a place to compare notes?" Li Changsheng didn't expect the old man to be so direct, but he didn't refuse. Instead, he nodded. Hearing that Li Changsheng was going to compete with Jin Wenwen's master, the news spread quickly. Many people were looking forward to it. Jin Wenwen's parents were a little worried. "Wenwen, your master is a well-known grandmaster in the Southern martial arts world. If he fights with Mr. Li, what if Mr. Li gets hurt? Your master practices Xingyi fist. It's said that he doesn't go out for 10 years in Tai Chi, and he can kill people in 1 year in Xingyi fist. If something really happens, what will happen to this big day?" Jin Wenwen's parents were also martial artists. Their family was a martial arts family. They didn't know how strong Li Changsheng was, but they knew Jin Wenwen's master very well. Hearing her parents' words, Jin Wenwen just smiled. "It's okay. Mr. Li is much stronger than my master. It's good enough that he doesn't hurt him. Wenwen, you always say how powerful your coach is. I thought he would be at least 30 or 40 years old. I didn't expect him to be so young. How powerful can he be at such a young age? Jean Wenwen's father shook his head. At this time, there was an empty space beside Li Changsheng and Bai Henian. The crowd gathered in a circle, wanting to see who was stronger and who was weaker in the fight. Bai Henian said coldly, "Stay away from us. It's not good to hurt you if you can't hold back later." Although Bai Henian didn't think that Li Changsheng was his opponent, he had seen his apprentice's progress in the past year. Naturally, he wouldn't underestimate Li Changsheng. Masters generally didn't hold back when they fought, especially for someone with Bai Henian's strength. He could split stones. A pair of sleeves had great power. If he couldn't hold back, it would be enough to seriously injure people who didn't know martial arts. There's no need to expand the circle. We should be able to determine the winner in 3 moves. We won't get involved. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Bai Henian was stunned and said doubtfully, "Young man, although I'm a #1 martial arts master of the Southern Sect, I saw that you taught Wenwen's Kung Fu, which shows that your strength is not ordinary, so you don't have to belittle yourself at all. I'm afraid I can't beat you in 3 moves." Bai Henian thought that Li Changsheng was afraid when he heard his name, so he wanted to encourage the younger generation. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng shook his head. "I mean, you can't last 3 moves against me." Li Changsheng said it as a matter of course. He didn't mean to show off at all. What he said was also the truth. But in Bai Henian's ears, it was extremely harsh, making his face instantly angry. He was the #1 martial arts master in the Southern Wolin. Li Changsheng was so old, but he was just a junior. How could he talk so arrogantly? "Young man, you're very good." Bai Henian sneered twice and made up his mind to teach this guy who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth some lessons. The only trace of good impression he had of Li Changsheng completely disappeared. Juniors nowadays are really arrogant. Just don't let the wind cut your tongue when the time comes. "Let's do it." Li Changsheng didn't bother to listen to the old man's long-winded words and made a gesture of invitation. On the other side, Jean Wenwen's parents frowned at the same time. Bai Henian had a very high position in their hearts. Seeing that Li Changsheng didn't know how to respect his elders at all, they were a little unhappy in their hearts. They also hoped that Wang Henian could teach Li Changsheng some lessons. Chapter 630. Little brother, I'm going to do it. Don't say that I'm bullying you. Bai Henian flicked his sleeves. It could be seen that the skin on his palm was as delicate as a baby's, without the slightest trace of age. This was the manifestation of the unification of the internal and external martial arts, which was the sign of the Guru realm. "Make your move," Li Changsheng said lightly. A Wu Dao guru was a top master in the secular world and could be recorded in the annals of history, but only in the secular world. Not counting Li Changsheng, even Asa next to him could easily defeat him. Even if Li Changsheng stood there and let him hit him, he would be injured by the shock of Li Changsheng's physical strength. "Take this." Bai Henian was a little annoyed by Li Changsheng's attitude. Li Changsheng's lazy appearance made him feel despised, as if he didn't care about anything. He punched out like a whale, diving in the deep sea. On the surface, nothing could be seen, but the power was terrifying. Strong masters of the Guru realm practiced martial arts to a very high level, which was indeed unique. However, in the face of this punch, Li Changsheng just gently moved his body to avoid the opponent's fist. Then, he raised his hand to grab the opponent's arm and pulled it forward. Taking advantage of the opponent's unsteady body, he raised his palm and lightly pressed it on Bai Henian's chest. Bang! Bai Henian took 3 steps back in a row, and his cheeks turned red and purple. This was the reason why his qi and blood were scattered by Li Changsheng's palm and could not be gathered for a while. He looked at Li Changsheng with shock in his eyes. He never expected that he would be defeated so easily, let alone that Li Changsheng's kung fu was so high. "I lost." Bai Henian lowered his head. "Master, are you okay?" Seeing Bai Henian's appearance, Jean Wenwen hurried through the crowd to support Bai Henian's body, looking worried. "I'm fine." Bai Henian waved his hand. "You're an amazing coach. It's just that this old man doesn't know his place." Far away, Jin Wenwen's parents widened their eyes. They were all martial artists and knew Bai Henian's kung fu very well. Who would have thought that he would be defeated by a young man? In the past, when Jin Wenwen told them how good her coach was, they didn't believe her. But now, they knew that Jin Wenwen was telling the truth. To be able to defeat Wang Henian, one must be a top expert in the entire world of martial arts. Southern Crane and Northern Xing. As the representative of the Southern Wolin, I lost here today. The representative of the Northern Wolin, Xing Mingjue, also lost in Suzhou. Bai Henian sighed with emotion. But when he thought of this, his eyes suddenly lit up and he looked at Li Changsheng. Coach Li, do you know Xing Mingjue from Northern Wolin? No, I don't. Li Changsheng shook his head. What does he do? He is the representative of the Northern Wolin. Like me, he is a martial artist in the Guru realm. He opened a martial arts club in Suzhou and is also my good friend. When I met him yesterday, he said that he lost to a young man. Is there another young master in Suzhou besides Coach Li? Are you talking about the man who fought with me in the hotel yesterday? Li Changsheng thought for a moment. Since he was in the Guru realm and similar to Bai Henian's description, the middle-aged man yesterday was very suitable. Exactly. He really lost to Mr. Li. Bai Henian sighed. When he heard Xing Mingjue mention Li Changsheng yesterday, he was quite unconvinced. Today, he knew that his old friend was not exaggerating. Unfortunately, after Xing Mingjue fought with Li Changsheng yesterday, his martial arts realm had improved, but Bai Henian only sighed with emotion. Sure enough, martial arts opportunities were different. With the same experience, some people could be enlightened, while others gained nothing. Just as Li Changsheng was attending Wang Dongxing's wedding in Suzhou, in the villa on the outskirts of the capital, the mountain protection array set up by Li Changsheng suddenly shook violently. An old man in a white shirt stood at the foot of the mountain. Behind him were many people with extraordinary momentum. There were men and women, old and young. Everyone stood there, exuding a strong momentum. If there were people in the cultivation world here, they would recognize that these were all well-known figures in the cultivation world in the capital. They were very famous in the cultivation world. Some of them were elders of sects, some were headmasters of small sects, and most of them were loose cultivators. Now, so many people gathered at the foot of the mountain, all standing behind the old man in a white shirt. The array shook, and the mountain shook. Lu Chong, who was in charge of guarding the villa, quickly showed himself and shouted angrily, "Who are you, sir? Why did you destroy my mountain protection array?" "I am Mei Guanjing's master. Where is Li Changsheng? Tell him to get out here. How dare he hurt my disciple? How can I spare him?" "So it's Mr. Li's enemy." Lu Chong shook his head. "Mr. Li is not here. If there is anything, wait until he comes back." Lu Chong was naturally confident to guard Li Changsheng's house. Although the other party's momentum was strong and he was not an ordinary person, Lu Chong was not afraid at all. A watchdog actually has such a tough tone. Xiao Yunqing snorted coldly and raised his palm to attack Lu Chong. That palm was like a dark cloud, and when it pressed down, it carried with it a tremendous force. Lu Chong wanted to block it, but he was instantly sent flying. Blood splashed in the air, and his chest became a bloody mess. He was seriously injured in just one blow. In a panic, Lu Chong hurriedly hid in the array. "This Li Changsheng has some tricks up his sleeve, but it's far from enough to stop me." Xiao Yunqing's palm pressed down again and fell on the array in the mountain. Boom! The earth shook and the clouds rolled. The mountain protection array set up by Li Changsheng began to shrink under the palm. When it shrank to the smallest size, it finally couldn't withstand the pressure and shattered. The entire mountain was shaking. Half of the villa at the top of the mountain collapsed under the palm, and the dragon chi gathered inside instantly spread everywhere. "How dare you destroy my master's villa? I'll kill you!" A loud shout was heard. Zhou Hong slashed at Xiao Yunqing with his blade. However, before he could even get close, Xiao Yunqing only lightly pointed with a finger, and the long blade in his hand flew out. Then he lightly waved his sleeve, and the clothes on Zhou Hong's chest were torn to shreds. A blue handprint appeared, and Zhou Hong was sent flying while coughing up blood. After sending Zhou Hong flying, Xiao Yunqing laughed and took a step forward. His body rose into the sky, and he looked down at the shocked Lu Chong. In a clear voice, he said, "Li Changsheng injured my disciple. Since he's not here, then you pass on my message. I'll be waiting for him in the capital. If he doesn't appear within 7 days, then no matter if it's his family, friends, subordinates, or disciples, none of them will live." With that, he descended from the sky and flew away with the experts of the cultivation world in the capital. Lu Chong and Zhou Hong were left with indignation in their eyes. Chapter 631. After Wang Dongxing's wedding, Li Changxing received a phone call from Lu Chong. Li Changsheng heard that Mei Guanjing's master had come to make trouble for him, and even broke the array. He hurriedly said goodbye to Wang Dongsheng and returned to the capital with Azu. At this time, Bai Henian took the initiative to ask Li Changsheng to go to the capital with him. His good friend Xing Mingjue also heard the news and came to visit Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng didn't refuse and took the two of them back to the capital. When he hurriedly rushed back to the villa on the outskirts of the capital, he saw the broken array formation and the collapsed villa. No matter how calm Li Changsheng was, he couldn't help but feel some anger in his eyes. Zhou Hong and Lu Chong's eyes were red. When Li Changxing left, they couldn't even protect the villa. They felt very incompetent. Beside him, Bai Henian and Xing Mingjue were completely dumbfounded. Just what kind of strength could cause such an earthquake? At this moment, the two of them realized that Li Changsheng didn't seem to be from the same world as them. Mei Guanjing's master, Xiao Yunqing, said that he would wait for you in the capital in 7 days. Lu Chong repeated to Li Changsheng what Xiao Yunqing had said before he left. Li Changxing nodded. Last time, when he had seriously injured Mei Guanjing had mentioned that he had a master. At that time, Li Changsheng didn't care, but he didn't expect that the master would really appear and be so powerful. The master could easily break the array set up by him. It was very likely that the master was at the half-step Earth celestial stage like him. "Sir, what should we do next?" Lu Chong asked nervously. The array was broken and the villa was destroyed. Although he couldn't stop the master, he still felt a little guilty. Since he said 7 days later, we'll wait for 7 days. I like to see how powerful he is. Because the villa on the top of the mountain was destroyed, Li Changsheng asked Yihaoran to help him find a courtyard in the capital to stay temporarily. During this time, Bai Henian and Xing Mingjue asked Li Changsheng for advice on martial arts, while Li Changsheng directly asked his disciple, Zhou Hong, to give them pointers. In the beginning, the two of them were not convinced. They felt that Li Changsheng was looking down on them. However, after fighting with Zhou Hong and being easily defeated by Zhou Hong, the two of them realized how wrong they were. They couldn't even beat a disciple of Li Changsheng. He completely put down his pride and asked Zhou Hong and Lu Chong for advice. While Li Changsheng was patiently waiting for the day of the battle, the news that Mei Guanjing's master, Xiao Yunqing, wanted to challenge Li Changsheng had spread like wildfire throughout most of the cultivation world. Grand Elder Wuqing, Second Elder Teng, and Yi were gathered in the central region of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. I heard that Mei Guanjing's master is going to challenge Li Changsheng. Mei Guanjing is the backer of our Heavenly Tao Union. Should we choose a side in advance? Teng and Yi looked at De Zhang and Lao Gua. Wuqing frowned. A few days ago, Mei Guanjing was injured by Li Changsheng, and our Heavenly Tao Alliance's central region went to the Yi clan to apologize. Mei Guanjing was already very unhappy. This time, he even asked his master to come. Although Li Changsheng is powerful, we don't know if he can defeat Xiao Yunqing. I think we should remain neutral for the time being, so as to avoid betting on the wrong person. If that happens, our central region will be consigned to eternal damnation. Wuqing, who had always been blindly arrogant, began to be cautious this time. He was really afraid of Li Changsheng. The day of the battle is coming. When the time comes, we will go and watch the battle together. I hope Xiao Yunqing can win. Otherwise, our central region will lose its backer. I'm afraid our ranking among the 5 divisions of the Heavenly Tao Alliance will fall. Time passed in a flash. There was only one day left before the battle. Xiao Yunqing was a famous expert in the cultivation world. When they heard that he was going to fight, many people came from thousands of miles away. Today, groups of cultivators had gathered in the capital. One could feel the aura of cultivators while walking on the street. It could be said that there were many experts gathered here. Li Changsheng, Lu Chong, Zhou Hong, and the others lived in the courtyard house. It was no secret. Today, there was a sudden knock on the door. Someone had come to visit. It was Ding Qingxue and Ding Qingyang. The two were very happy to see Li Changsheng, especially Ding Qingxue. Her eyes lit up. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that she treated Li Changsheng differently. In addition to the two siblings, there was also Qing City's sect master, Yin Shuanging, Shu Mountain's elder, Yu Feng, and Wudong's sect master, Song Jin. These people were all from the Sword Dao Alliance. Mei Guanjing's master, Xiao Yunqing, was too famous. He had been in seclusion for many years and rarely showed his face. However, several decades ago, he was very famous in the cultivation world. When he was young, he far surpassed his peers. Later on, he took Mei Guanjing as his disciple and went into seclusion. When he came out of seclusion 10 years ago, many experts of the older generation went to visit him. In the end, the news spread that his strength was equivalent to half an Earth immortal. At that time, it caused a great impulse. This time, it attracted not only the people from the Sword Dao Alliance, but also the sect masters of other sections. More than half of the experts in the cultivation world basically gathered in the capital. Li Changsheng had experienced many battles since he woke up, but this one had the biggest impact. If he could defeat Xiao Yunqing, then from now on, no one would doubt Li Changsheng's strength. The title of the number one in the cultivation world would be well-deserved. Mr. Li, I have heard about what happened to my uncle, Song Jingheng. I apologize to you here. Wudong's sect master, Song Jun, said somewhat apologetically. It's okay. He is him, and you are you. What's done is done. Li Changsheng said casually. Last time on Mount Jiuhua, Song Jingheng was invited by Daoist Floating Dust to join forces with Fu Gaowu, the master of the Hong sect, Feng Yuze, and Lang Yuanbai to deal with Li Changsheng. As a member of the Sword Dao Alliance, Song Jun could be considered Li Changsheng's subordinate. His uncle actually went against Li Changsheng, so Song Jun was afraid that Li Changsheng would blame him. Hearing that Li Changsheng didn't care, he breathed a sigh of relief. By the way, didn't your uncle come to the capital this time? Since the other party was able to break Li Changsheng's array, Li Changsheng knew that Xiao Yunqing was probably the strongest opponent he had encountered. Logically speaking, Song Jingheng shouldn't have missed such a battle. My uncle is here. Not only him, Feng Yuze and Daoist Floating Dust are also here, but they all went to visit Xiao Yunqing. Speaking of this, Song Jun felt a little guilty. Uncle doesn't want to go against Mr. Li. He and Xiao Yunqing are from the same generation and have some friendship in the past, so he went. Song Jun was afraid that Li Changsheng would misunderstand. Li Changsheng smiled and said, "It's fine." Li Changsheng had a good impression of Song Jun. As for who Song Jingheng and the others wanted to see, it was their freedom. Li Changsheng naturally had no right to interfere. As long as they didn't go against him, Li Changsheng wasn't so narrow-minded as to not allow them to visit an old friend. That's good. That's good. Song Jun breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 632. Just as Li Changsheng was catching up with Ding Qingyang and the others, in a courtyard somewhere in the capital, there were also experts of the cultivation world gathered. However, the people here were more important than those in Li Changsheng's courtyard. Wudong Grand Elder Song Jinheng, Sword and Book Duo Feng Yuze, Kunlun Sect Master Daoist Floating Dust, and many other experts of the capital. Senior Xiao, that Li Changsheng defeated experts consecutively in less than a year. He's extremely ferocious. Several finger-profound realm experts died at his hands. This kind of person would be a great devil in ancient times. Relying on you to save me is equivalent to drowning in fire and water. A middle-aged man fawned over Xiao Yunqing. With Senior Zhao's strength, that Li Changsheng is naturally not a match for you. Another person also fawned over him. Xiao Yunqing smiled faintly. He's just a junior who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth just because he has some talent. If my disciple didn't lose to him, I wouldn't even bother with him. As he spoke, he looked at his disciple Mei Guanjing. Xiao Mei, what do you think about Li Changxing's strength? Hearing little Mei's address, Mei Guanjing's cheeks couldn't help but tremble slightly. If an outsider dared to call him that, he would have already slapped him to death. That Li Changsheng is very strong. He's definitely at the peak of the finger-profound realm, or even higher. He's only in his 20s, but he's definitely a powerful figure. In this world, only master can deal with him. Mei Guanjing quietly fawned over Xiao Yunqing. As expected, Xiao Yunqing enjoyed it very much. Tomorrow is the date of the agreement. I hope that Li Changxing won't disappoint me. Xiao Yunqing finished speaking. Mei Guanjing had already prepared a banquet. This time, Xiao Yunqing challenged Li Changxing not only to avenge his disciple, but also to establish his position as the #1 person in the cultivation world. Many experts of the cultivation world came to watch the battle. He naturally wanted to rope in and nurture his own forces. The next day, the day of the competition, it was autumn. The weather had gradually cooled down, but for cultivators, they were no longer affected by the weather. Xiao Yunqing didn't go out. He just sat in the courtyard and waited quietly. The crowd of cultivators knew that this courtyard would become today's battlefield. Naturally, it didn't dare to stay here. They all watched the battle from 100 meters away. The enmity between Li Changsheng and Xiao Yunqing also represented a battle between the strongest in the cultivation world. The final victor would establish his position as #1 in the cultivation world. This battle was not only about victory and defeat, but also about life and death. The strong were destined to step on the corpse of the other strong to rise to the top. Mei Guanjing, Feng Yuze, Song Jingheng, and the others were among the few who were qualified to watch the battle from a close distance. The Heavenly Tao Alliances Guoqing, Teng, and Yi had all come. Apart from them, even a few elders from the other divisions of the Heavenly Law Alliance had appeared. None of them wanted to miss such a grand occasion. Outside the courtyard, there were also famous figures in the world of cultivation. They stood in a circle and waited quietly. A high number of cultivators were observing the battle from afar. Some of them had brought their sex juniors to spectate the battle. There were also some loose cultivators dressed in strange clothing. Every one of them possessed formidable auras, causing others to not dare underestimate them. Time passed by minute. When it was almost 9 o'clock, there was a commotion from the crowd of spectators. Led by Li Changsheng, Ding Qingyang, Ding Qingxue, Song Zhen, Lu Chong, and the others finally appeared. Xing Mingjue and Bai Henian, the two martial arts masters, also appeared. As soon as Li Changxing appeared, there was a buzz of discussion like bees. Xiao Yunqing, who was sitting in the courtyard, slowly stood up. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Although Li Changsheng was young, he was already famous in the world of cultivation. Li Changsheng, I didn't expect you to be at the peak of the finger-profound realm at such a young age. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Xiao Yunqing's voice came from the courtyard, and the courtyard door that was originally closed automatically opened. The moment the door opened, Li Changsheng and Xiao Yunqing's eyes met. You're the one who broke my formation and destroyed my villa? Li Changsheng looked Xiao Yunqing up and down. Xiao Yunqing stood there, as if he had become one with heaven and earth. The true qi in his body flowed endlessly like a great river. He was also at the finger-profound realm, but he was much stronger than Song Jinheng and the others. That's right. I broke your formation and destroyed your villa. What? If you have resentment in your heart, you could destroy my courtyard and collapse my house. You destroy my villa, so I'll take your life. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a fierce wind rose around him. He took a step forward, and the ground rumbled. A crack split open from the tip of his foot and spread forward until it reached Xiao Yunqing's feet. Li Changsheng had already launched an attack as he spoke. Xiao Yunqing raised his palm and suddenly slapped the ground under his feet. It was as if he could topple mountains and overturned seas. A strong wind surged and hit the spreading crack head-on. Suddenly, there was a rumble, and a deep hole appeared in the ground. The entire courtyard shook as if there was an earthquake. The walls cracked, and the house behind him collapsed in an instant. Li Changsheng had already given his opponent a show of strength with his first move. "Good boy, take my move." Fighting spirit rose in Xiao Yunqing's eyes. He naturally didn't care about a house, but in front of so many people, he had clearly struck out with his palm, but Li Changsheng still destroyed the house. This made him lose some face. He waved his palm continuously, and the palm energy turned into wind blades. With a whistling sound, they enveloped Li Changsheng like a storm. This was the true technique of the finger profound realm, turning the origin chi of heaven and earth into an attack. The densely packed blades poured down like a torrential flood. The terrifying power wanted to cut Li Changsheng into 8 pieces. Li Changsheng didn't have much expression in the face of the airtight and surging blades. He only raised his fist and punched out. The fist energy was like a cannonball, rushing straight into the wind blades. Bang, 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 bang. The collision made continuous sounds. The fist energy directly opened up a path of the fist. Any wind blade that was hit by the fist instantly shattered and turned into the primitive origin chi of heaven and earth. Rumble. Although the fist energy was very powerful, there were too many wind blades. He opened up a path of the fist, but only blocked the attack in front of him. There were still wind blades in all directions that he couldn't block. Hula. Li Changsheng's feet moved, and his fist danced like a large spear. The defense around him was airtight, and the wind blades were all shattered under his stirring. At the same time, he opened his fist into a palm and moved the origin chi of heaven and earth to form a yin-yang pattern. He suddenly struck out at Xiao Yunqing. The yin-yang pattern spun continuously and finally formed a huge black and white millstone. As it moved, it drew the origin chi of heaven and earth down. Xiao Yunqing raised his hand to meet the millstone formed by the yin-yang pattern, but was hit in the chest and took 5 steps back. His face flushed red, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was a finger profound realm expert. Although he didn't specialize in tempering his body was still many times stronger than an ordinary cultivator's. But in Li Changsheng's eyes, he was still very weak. "You're a body cultivator," Xiao Yunqing blurted out. He was a Dharma cultivator, and even he felt that he was too stupid to take a blow from a body cultivator. Chapter 633. So you're a body cultivator. No wonder so many experts were defeated by you. Xiao Yunqing's eyes flashed. He thought he had figured out why Li Changsheng was so strong. Body cultivators were invincible in the same realm, especially when they were in close combat. It was simply a nightmare. It doesn't matter what I am. What matters is that you must die today. Li Changsheng looked straight at Xiao Yunqing. This was the strongest person he had seen since he woke up. However, 1 in 100 million people could be like Xiao Yunqing. Unfortunately, he shouldn't have threatened Li Changsheng with his family and friends. This had already touched Li Changsheng's bottom line. So in Li Changsheng's eyes, he was already a dead man. "Li Changsheng, don't be so arrogant. I was just tricked by you. I didn't know you were a body cultivator, so I took your blow. Otherwise, do you think you could hurt me? Ridiculous." Xiao Yunqing pulled apart the distance between him and Li Changsheng, and his face regained its usual calm and composure. "Confident, huh? I do walk the path of strength, but do you think you could defeat me by pulling away from me?" Li Changsheng's lips curled into a playful smile. "Huh, boy, in my opinion, you won't cry until you see the coffin. If you hadn't been careless just now, do you think you would have had the chance to hurt me?" Xiao Yunqing sneered. "Next, I guarantee you won't even be able to touch my sleeve. I'll let you understand what true power is." His eyes flashed with a cold light, and his hands formed a seal in the air. "Today, you can die under my power. You didn't come to this world in vain." With that, the shadow of a mountain appeared between Xiao Yunqing's hands. He pointed at Li Changsheng's position, and the mountain grew to 100 feet in size and came crashing down. Rumble! A terrifying force caused the heavens to change. Boundless heaven and earth origin chi surged. Under the powerful pressure, even the void began to tremble. Before it even landed, it already gave off a suffocating feeling. The onlookers who were originally nearby all hurriedly retreated, fearing that they would be implicated. This divine ability is called moving mountains. Li Changsheng, aren't you a body cultivator who uses strength to prove your Tao? Then break apart the mountains and let me see how strong you are. That mountain, however, was like a real object. It crashed down with the power of 10,000 soldiers, causing people to be shocked. Open! Li Changsheng raised his fist and punched above his head. In the air, a fist energy whizzed out and smashed into the mountain above. The mountain, which possessed a gravity of 10,000, was unable to descend any further the moment it came into contact with the fist force. Then, with an ear-piercing roar, the entire illusory mountain exploded, turning into the purest yuan qi of heaven and earth, surging above his head. Xiao Yunxing didn't seem to have expected Li Changsheng to break his moving mountain's divine ability so easily and violently. However, he didn't panic. Instead, he methodically delivered a second blow. As long as a spell cultivator was far enough away from a body cultivator, it was equivalent to being in an invincible position. They could use the energy of heaven and earth to exhaust the enemy with endless spells. That was why he was able to do it so calmly. A pagoda gathered in his hand, releasing 10,000 rays of golden light. It gave off a sacred and vast feeling. It could subdue demons and suppress everything as it came crashing down from the sky. The pagoda seemed to be made of gold. Light flowed around it, and its power was boundless. Good timing. Li Changsheng once again clenched his fist to meet the golden pagoda. At the same time, he stomped on the ground, creating a crack. His body rose from the ground and rushed into the golden pagoda. Xiao Yunxing let out a cry of surprise. He didn't expect Li Changsheng to be so bold as to rush into his golden pagoda. One had to know that his golden pagoda was created by observing the birth of the morning sun. Heaven and earth yuan qi flourished. Rays of light like Buddha's light flashed, turning the morning sun into a golden pagoda. It dispelled the darkness of the world and comprehended this move of supreme yang. If Li Changsheng had used his fist to resist, weakening the power of the pagoda, and then escaped, he might have only suffered a minor injury to neutralize this move. However, he never expected Li Changsheng to take the initiative to rush into the pagoda. It was tantamount to meeting the strongest power of the pagoda. It was simply courting death. Xiao Yunxing couldn't help but shake his head. In the end, he's still too young. He thinks he can break through all techniques with his own strength, but he doesn't know that he's courting death. Since he dares to break into my golden pagoda, then let's end this battle. Xiao Yunxing's hands constantly formed seals, forming rays of light that shot into the golden pagoda. The golden pagoda grew larger and larger, flickering with golden light like a blazing sun. The spectators didn't dare to look directly at the golden pagoda. They only felt that each ray of light contained terrifying power. Even from a distance, just looking at it made their eyes bleed. This Li Changsheng is probably going to die here. Mei Guanjing's face was already filled with pride. Ding Qingyang, Ding Qingxue, Zhou Hong, and the others all had worried expressions. This golden pagoda was too powerful. Even from a distance, they could feel its terrifying aura. It made their hearts palpitate. But at this moment, a fist suddenly rushed out of the golden light. Then, the golden pagoda shattered with a bang. Li Changsheng rushed out of the golden pagoda, his fist piercing through the air as he attacked Xiao Yunxing. You actually used your physical body to shatter the defenses of my golden pagoda. Xiao Yunxing's expression changed drastically. He spread out his arms and hurriedly retreated. He didn't dare to let Li Changsheng get close to him. Once Li Changsheng got close, he wouldn't be able to use any of his techniques. Li Changsheng's fist landed, and Xiao Yunxing had already retreated 100 meters. A rogue cultivator who was watching the battle behind him was carelessly struck by the fist energy, and his body exploded into a bloody mist. This scene frightened the spectators quite a bit, and they quickly distanced themselves from the two combatants, retreating a few hundred meters. That rogue cultivator was originally Xiao Yunqing's follower. At that time, he had been cheering for Xiao Yunqing, so even though he had exploded, Li Chongqing didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. At this moment, he once again stepped through the air and chased after Xiao Yunqing. Surnamed Xiao, if you have any tricks, I advise you to use them as soon as possible. Otherwise, you can only take them to the grave. Li Chongqing spoke clearly. He was like a god of war, unstoppable and domineering. What an arrogant brat. Humph! You only broke my golden pagoda. Do you really think you can defeat me? I admit that I have indeed underestimated you, but the real battle has only just begun. Xiao Yunqing sneered. The profound finger realm is also divided into different levels. You, Li Chongqing, used your body cultivation technique to defeat 5 profound finger realm experts in a row, and you are known as the #1 person in the northern cultivation world. But you don't know that there are realms above the peak of the profound finger realm, and I'm someone above the peak. Xiao Yunqing waved his hands repeatedly, and a transparent wall of light appeared out of thin air, blocking Li Chongqing's path. At the same time, a dense array of weapons appeared behind Xiao Yunqing. This move was both offensive and defensive. It was called Saber Weapon Divine Treasure. Li Chongqing, what do you think if I use this move to kill you? Chapter 634. There were long sabers, short swords, long spears, silver spears, and all kinds of weapons in the sky. It was as if there was a torrential rain or a swarm of locusts passing through. Just looking at the dark cloud-like weapons was enough to make one's scalp tingle. Li Chongqing's face finally showed some seriousness. He raised his hand and summoned the heart's willing sword. It instantly expanded to 100 feet and slashed down from the sky. The sword light was resplendent and collided with the densely packed weapons. It was like a fighter jet smashing into the dark clouds. The weapons all clashed with the heart's willing sword. The sword light pierced a hole in the energy light wall in front. I don't think your saber and sword divine treasury is that good. Li Chongqing laughed loudly and rode his sword. The sword light was like a galaxy across the sky. No matter what kind of attack it passed, it was shattered by the sword light. It was unstoppable. Li Chongqing came riding his sword like a peerless sword immortal. He was unstoppable. Xiao Yunqing's face became a little ugly. He originally thought that Li Chongqing was only a body cultivator and that the saber and sword divine treasury was enough to control Li Chongqing. He didn't expect Li Chongqing to be so powerful in the way of the sword. Sword cultivators were known as the #1 in terms of killing power. Like body cultivators, they were almost invincible in the same realm. Who would have thought that a person was both a body cultivator and a sword cultivator? No wonder so many finger profound realm cultivators died at the hands of this young man. Fortunately, I have a trump card. Otherwise, I might have really died at his hands today. Xiao Yunqing's thoughts revolved. He put his palms together, and a wisp of golden light scattered from his palms. Finally, it condensed into a golden spear in the air. This spear is called the Scorching Sun Dragon Spear. I created it by gathering the power of the sun. As Xiao Yunqing spoke, the spear was already in his hand. The golden light was resplendent. He waved the spear and stabbed forward. A golden 5-clawed dragon whizzed out. His spear continued to swing, and the surrounding void began to shatter. 5-clawed golden dragons flew out one after another, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Their roars shook the 9 heavens, and a total of 9 golden dragons lined up in a row. As he thrust out his spear, a brilliant sun appeared on the tip of his spear. 9 golden dragons supported the sun and pressed down on Li Chongqing. This was a spectacle. If Xiao Yunqing's previous moves could be called spells, then this was a divine ability. Countless people looked up at the sun in the sky, their minds swaying. Xiao Yunqing's strength is too terrifying. He actually created a divine ability. Senior Zhao's divine might is unparalleled. With this move, he has already decided the outcome of the battle. Yes. I can't imagine how Li Changsheng would be able to block such an attack. I've heard that Senior Xiao Yunqing has reached the half-step Earth Celestial stage and is the only person in the world who has come into contact with the Great Way of the Earth Celestial stage. Senior Xiao Yunqing is definitely the most powerful man in the world. Countless people were sighing. No matter how strong they could feel the power from this move. That day, Li Changsheng defeated the 5 of us on Mount Jiuhua and stepped on our reputations to build his reputation. But who would have thought that the wheel of fortune would turn and the heavenly Tao would reincarnate? Today, Xiao Yunqing will step on his bones and become the #1 cultivator in the world of cultivation. The Wudong sect's supreme elder, Song Jingheng, sighed with a hint of carefreeness in his tone. After being defeated by Li Changsheng that day, the 5 of them had suffered a disastrous decline in reputation. It was impossible to say that they didn't hate Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng's strength was too strong, so they could only suppress this hatred in their hearts. Brother Song's words are reasonable. It's a pity that Lang Yuanbai is seriously injured and can't see Li Changsheng being defeated with his own eyes. Otherwise, he would drink 300 cups of wine. At this time, the sword and calligraphy duo, Feng Yuze, also spoke. There were many heroes in the world of cultivation, but often, the higher the seniority, the stronger the cultivation. If they lost to Xiao Yunqing, they would feel much better than losing to Li Changsheng. It's time to end everything. Xiao Yunqing laughed loudly. The 9 dragons held a sun and enveloped Li Changsheng. The scorching light had the power to burn the sky and boil the sea. Even though the 2 of them were fighting in the sky, the ground under their feet was still scorching hot. It was as if they had really grabbed the sun from the sky. The fire of the sun is the most masculine. Xiao Yunqing has comprehended the power of rules at the half-step Earth Celestial stage. It's really extraordinary. It's a pity. Li Changsheng sighed. If he hadn't broken through to the peak of the Finger Profound stage, he might have had to spend a lot of effort to defeat Xiao Yunqing's attack. They were both half-step Earth Celestials, but in Li Changsheng's eyes, Xiao Yunqing's strength was a little too weak. I originally thought that the half-step Earth Celestial stage would at least make me use half of my strength, but now it seems that's not the case at all. Could it be that this is Xiao Yunqing's most powerful combat strength? If that's really the case, then I might be able to defeat a real Earth Celestial. The moment this thought arose in Li Changsheng's mind, even Li Changsheng felt that his idea was a little crazy. Earth Celestials were already Celestials. There was a difference between Celestials and mortals because Celestials were on another level of life. Li Changsheng thought that his current strength could kill Celestials. If others heard this, they would probably think that Li Changsheng had gone crazy. However, this was indeed according to Li Changsheng's estimation of Xiao Yunqing's combat strength. Master taught me the 9 revolutions of gods and demons. What kind of heaven-defying cultivation method is it? In the midst of such a fierce battle, Li Changsheng was a little absent-minded. By the time he reacted, the sun had already completely swallowed him. At that moment, Li Changsheng was like Sun Wukong in an alchemy furnace. The surrounding flames were about to burn him, and the 9 true dragons opened their ferocious mouths and pounced on his body. It's over. In the crowd below, Ding Qingshue's body swayed, and she almost fainted. Ding Qingyang, Zhou Hong, and the others also turned pale. They were originally full of confidence in Li Changsheng, but when they saw this scene, they all despaired. In the sky, Xiao Yunqing heaved a long sigh of relief. Whenever he fought with Li Changsheng would always show a stronger strength. Therefore, even if it was his most powerful move, he was still worried that an accident would happen. However, when the sun completely enveloped Li Changsheng, he knew that the outcome was certain. He was well aware of the power of his move. Unless it was a true Earth Celestial, anyone would be burned to ashes by the extreme yang true fire of the sun. However, Just when Xiao Yunqing felt that Li Changsheng had already been reduced to ashes, there was a sudden rumble. A fiend god stepped out of the flames and opened its mouth to swallow the surging grandson True Fire. Even the 9 true dragons couldn't escape. In the blink of an eye, the flames disappeared, and so did the scorching heat in the sky. Just like that, the killing move had been broken. What is this? Xiao Yunqing was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 635. After Li Changsheng used the indestructible body of gods and demons to swallow the flames, he waved his fists and released tens of thousands of rays of light. Finally, it formed an extremely powerful fist energy and roared out. Xiao Yunqing, take this as well. With one punch, the wind and clouds changed color and the void began to shatter. Wherever the fist energy passed, it seemed to destroy the world and reopen the chaos. Looking from afar, Li Changsheng was like an invincible god of war. His fist was like an angry dragon roaring, opening a path in the sky that crossed the distance of time and space. The whole world was filled with the thunderous sound of the fist. Xiao Yunqing's Taoism was mysterious and incomparably wonderful, but Li Changsheng's fist was even more powerful. It displayed the strength of a body cultivator to the fullest. No matter what kind of magic art you had, I would break it with one punch. Rumble! This fist carried with it the billowing chi of heaven and earth and pressed forward with an indomitable momentum. Xiao Yunqing's eyes were also filled with shock. His hands kept dancing, and he displayed one seal after another. At the same time, the scorching sun dragon spear shattered and turned into a golden divine bird, burning with raging flames. According to legend, the 3-legged golden crow was born in the depths of the sun. Whoosh! Li Changsheng's fist destroyed everything in its path. The 3-legged golden crow, which was as big as a house, almost instantly let out a mournful cry and exploded into a pile of sparks. After destroying the 3-legged golden crow, Xiao Yunqing released a few more magic arts. All kinds of ancient divine beasts condensed and formed in the sky. Tens of thousands of beasts galloped, and the power of each one was no less than a finger-profound realm powerhouse's all-out attack. It could be seen that the flames of several divine beasts in the sky were connected, and even the clouds in the sky were evaporated. This was the power of a half-step earth celestial. They could control the chi of heaven and earth, and their true core was endless, like a bottomless pit. Bang, 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 bang. Li Changsheng's fist broke through all the obstacles and opened a path through the sea of fire. Finally, he arrived in front of Xiao Yunqing. Xiao Yunqing's hands transformed into shields, but they were still penetrated by the fist energy. His body flew back, but because the power of this punch had been greatly weakened after shattering countless obstacles, it only caused Xiao Yunqing some light injuries. Li Changsheng, I've underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have such strength at such a young age. But do you think that's all I have? Xiao Yunqing took a deep breath. Endless chi of heaven and earth gathered around him, forming a hazy fog. Standing in the fog, he looked like an immortal. When a mist had completely fused into his body, he opened his arms, and a 3-legged cauldron gradually appeared above his head. Although the cauldron was still an illusion, the moment it appeared, the entire world was filled with a mysterious aura. The cauldron was an artifact used by saints to guard the mountains and rivers, and its 3 legs symbolized the birth of all things. Even Li Changsheng couldn't help but be moved. Swordsmen have life-bound flying swords, and I have also forged an artifact to prove my Tao. This cauldron. Li Changsheng, why don't you take a look and see if my natal item can kill you? As he spoke, the 3-legged cauldron flew out of his head and pressed down on Li Changsheng. This cauldron was in between reality and illusion, but Xiao Yunqing said that it was his life-bound artifact. Li Changsheng only needed to think for a moment to understand that Xiao Yunqing was very generous. He actually believed that no artifact forged in this world was qualified to be his life-bound artifact. Instead, he chose to condense an artifact out of thin air. Unfortunately, he was limited by his cultivation and could not form this cauldron. Otherwise, it really might have been able to threaten Li Changsheng. Every person who could ascend to the great Tao of the Earth Immortal Realm was a martial genius that only appeared once in 1,000 years. Zhuanghua, who had been killed by Li Changsheng, was such a person, and so was Xiao Yunqing. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave will win. On the path of cultivation, since you have become my stumbling block, I can only kill you. Li Changsheng sighed. The giant fiend god illusion suddenly fused into his body with a roar. At this moment, Li Changsheng's aura, which could be considered calm, suddenly became violent. He was like an ancient and brutal fiend god, and a bloodthirsty and cold aura emanated from his body. At this moment, everyone's hearts began to palpitate. Everyone's eyes revealed a dignified expression, knowing that the two of them would probably decide the victor in this move. Bai Henian and Xing Mingjue, who were known as the representatives of the secular northern and southern Wolin, had long been so shocked that their minds had gone blank. Only today did they know that there was such an immortal-like existence in the world. The moment the fiend god fused with his body, the small cauldron also arrived at the top of Li Changsheng's head. The small cauldron was only the size of a palm, but at this moment, it exuded an immense power, as if it carried the power of the entire world and pressed down, about to crush Li Changsheng into pieces. Everyone felt their mouths go dry as they stared fixedly at the sky. Today's battle dazzled even those finger-profound realm experts, and their minds swayed. It could be called a battle of immortals. Open for me. Li Changsheng swung his fist and smashed it on the round cauldron. In just a moment, a powerful roar resounded in all directions. An invisible sound wave spread out with his fist as the center. In the distance, an ancient tree that required several people to wrap their arms around it was actually snapped in half by the sound waves, and the buildings beside it were also flattened by the power. However, Li Changsheng's fist only slowed down the round cauldron's falling speed slightly, and the round cauldron was actually not damaged at all. Could it be that Li Changsheng is going to lose? This thought arose in many people's minds. Ding Qingxue, Lu Chong, and the others were filled with worry. Bang, 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 bang. They originally thought that Li Changsheng's punch just now was already the most powerful, but they didn't expect that Li Changsheng would immediately follow up with 3 more punches, and that the round cauldron that was about to fall down actually rose a little. How is this possible? Xiao Yunqing's expression finally changed. This cauldron of his had borrowed the power of the entire world. Not only did Li Changsheng have no intention of dodging, he actually used his fist to forcefully beat the small cauldron until it began to rise. How much power did this require? Li Changsheng, the power of the physical body will eventually come to an end. Using the power of the physical body to compete with the power of the world, it will be difficult for you to escape the fate of dying from exhaustion. Xiao Yunqing's face regained its calm. In his opinion, Li Changsheng's actions were simply courting death. However, Li Changsheng didn't answer at all, and instead smashed his fist on the round cauldron again and again. The round cauldron had already begun to rise under the force of his punches. The 6th punch, the 7th punch, and the 9th punch. By the time the 9th punch landed, the round cauldron had already been knocked back by Li Changsheng's attacks. This time, Xiao Yunqing was finally no longer calm. He waved his hands and began to inject spirit qi into the round cauldron, causing the round cauldron that was constantly retreating to instantly stabilize its form. Li Changsheng, I'm already a half-step Earth Celestial, and I can continuously extract the power of the world. Aren't you courting death by competing with me in strength? Xiao Yunqing said with a complacent smile. Li Changsheng's physical strength was really too powerful. Even though he was already a half-step Earth Celestial, if Li Changsheng got close to him, he would still be in danger of dying. However, it was different now. Li Changsheng didn't retreat when facing the round cauldron, and instead chose to meet it head-on, causing the two of them to fall into a stalemate of strength. In such a stalemate, Xiao Yunqing could continuously extract the power of the world, and Li Changsheng's physical strength would eventually run out. so in Xiao Yunqing's eyes, victory was already in his grasp. Chapter 636. You can forgive the sins of the heavens, but you can't survive the sins you bring upon yourself. Xiao Yunqing laughed complacently. This was exactly what he had been dreaming of. However, Li Changsheng didn't care about his mockery at all. Instead, he raised his fist and punched a few more times. The 10th punch, the 11th punch, the 12th punch. Each punch was the sum of all the previous punches. By the time he reached the 18th punch, Xiao Yunqing's expression had changed. Because of the power of Li Changsheng's punches, even he couldn't remain calm. I don't believe you can continue attacking like this, Xiao Yunqing said coldly. Is that so? Li Changsheng's body was close to the round cauldron, and he punched 9 more times in one breath, a total of 27 punches. Crack! Finally, the round cauldron was completely shattered under the fist, and Xiao Yunqing spat out a mouthful of blood. The round cauldron was his natal item. Now that it was shattered, he was immediately seriously injured. How is this possible? Xiao Yunqing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Do you think you're the only half-step Earth immortal in the world? As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, he raised his fist again. The 29th punch. At this moment, with this punch, a crack was torn in the void in front of Li Changsheng. The rumbling fist energy directly entered the crack, cut through the void, and instantly appeared in front of Xiao Yunqing's chest. It's over. Xiao Yunqing didn't even have time to react before his chest was smashed by the fist. A large part of his chest instantly caved in. At the same time, the fist energy directly penetrated his body and flew out from his back, accompanied by a spray of blood in the air. Rip! It was like the sound of a sheet of iron being torn apart. Xiao Yunqing's body was split in half along the wound caused by Li Changsheng's fist, and he fell from the sky. I actually lost. These were Xiao Yunqing's last words. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and disbelief. However, after being hit by Li Changsheng's fist, his vitality was completely extinguished in an instant. At this moment, all was silent under the sky. Everyone looked at the scene in the sky in a daze. Xiao Yunqing, who was a half-step into the Earth's celestial stage, had been killed. Everyone felt as if they were in a dream. This was something that they didn't even dare to think about. On the other hand, Mei Guanjing's face turned pale in an instant. His body trembled and tears streamed down his face. Then he knelt on the ground with a plop and cried bitterly. Master, it's all my fault. As for the others like Song Jingheng, Feng Yuze, Taoist Floating Dust, and the others, their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They were of the same generation as Xiao Yunqing, but Xiao Yunqing had left them behind early on. Xiao Yunqing had long been the #1 person in the world in their hearts, but now he had still been defeated by Li Changsheng and had fallen here. Li Changsheng didn't just kill Xiao Yunqing, he also trampled on the entire cultivation world. From then on, Li Changsheng's title of #1 in the world was well-deserved. The young Li Changsheng ascended to the supreme position and became unrivaled in the world. Even a half-step into the Earth's celestial stage is no match for him. Could it be that he's a living Earth celestial? Song Jingheng muttered to himself. On the other side, Ding, Qingxue, and the others were surrounded by ecstasy. Li Changsheng had won in the end. Xiao Yunqing dared to threaten me with Li Changsheng's family. Today, he brought this upon himself. A dragon has a reverse scale, and those who touch it will die. Today, I, Li Changsheng, will say that if anyone has a grudge against me, Li Changsheng, they can come to me for revenge. But if anyone dares to touch my family and friends, then Xiao Yunqing's fate will be the same. As soon as his voice fell, Li Changsheng descended from the sky. He looked at Mei Guanjing, who was crying bitterly, and his gaze wandered for a long time. In the end, he didn't make a move. When Li Changsheng looked at Mei Guanjing, the people who were originally on good terms with Mei Guanjing became nervous. Cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots had always been an iron law in the world of cultivation. They all thought that Mei Guanjing would undoubtedly die today, but they didn't expect that Li Changsheng wouldn't kill him. While they were relieved, they also sighed with emotion. No matter how terrifying the rumors about Li Changsheng were and what kind of devil he was, from his actions just now, it seemed that he wasn't a bloodthirsty person. If Xiao Yunqing hadn't threatened Li Changsheng with his family, perhaps he would have been defeated today, but he wouldn't have died. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Everyone had to take responsibility for their own words and actions. After the battle in the capital, Li Changsheng became famous and became the #1 in the world of cultivation. However, such a sensational matter only spread in the world of cultivation. Although there were ordinary people in the secular world who saw the changes in the sky from afar and heard all kinds of strange sounds, almost no news of it spread. If the world knew about the existence of cultivators, it would definitely cause a big mess. However, Li Changsheng didn't need to worry about this matter. Naturally, there would be people who would take care of it properly. In the following days, Li Changsheng asked Yi Haoran to find some people to help repair the villa. He still lived in the courtyard that Yi Haoran helped him find. Almost every day, there would be people from the world of cultivation coming to visit. There were elders from the other divisions of the Heavenly Dao Union, as well as the sect masters of the Sword Union. Song Jinheng, Daoist Floating Dust, and the others personally came to apologize. 10 days after the martial arts competition, the villa at the top of the mountain was finally repaired. Li Changsheng moved back to the villa, and at the same time, rearranged the spirit gathering array and the mountain protecting array. This time, Li Changsheng imitated the Kunlun sect and arranged dozens of arrays. The small arrays were connected to each other to form a medium array. The medium array was then combined with the medium array to form a large array. The entire mountain villa was integrated into one. In this way, even if an expert like Xiao Yunqing came, it wouldn't be easy to break the array. Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue stayed behind to help Li Changsheng arrange the array. However, because they still had some matters to deal with in the sect, they also left on the 13th day. Those who should have come to visit had also come. Li Changsheng's villa was finally quiet. Next, it's time to establish a sect. Unfortunately, I only have one disciple. Li Changsheng was a bit distressed. Suddenly, he remembered that Mei Guanjing had more than 20 martial Dao geniuses. If he took them in, he could immediately establish a sect. However, after thinking about it, Li Changsheng dispelled this idea. Those people were not goods. Moreover, they were Mei Guanjing's subordinates. Even if he took them by force, many of them would not be convinced. After all, disciples could not be taken by force. Since Mei Guanjing can find so many genius disciples, I can do the same. The world is so big that there is no lack of talent. It's just that Mei Guanjing has been in the capital for many years. He has various channels and connections to find genius disciples. However, most of the people I know are ordinary people. Where should I start? While Li Changsheng was distressed, another person came to visit. This time, it was an acquaintance. Ren Juntang, the general manager of the Junka Group, used to be Su Xiaolin's favorite general. Now, he worked for Li Changsheng. Why are you here? Ren Juntang had nothing to do with the cultivation world. He definitely didn't come to see him because he defeated Xiao Yunqing. Sure enough, Ren Juntang explained, I heard from Yi Haoran, Chairman Yi, that you live in the capital, so I came to see you. Recently, the company has encountered some difficulties. I'm a bit helpless. What difficulties? Li Changsheng was a little curious. With Ren Juntang's ability, he could naturally settle business matters. Moreover, even if he couldn't, Li Changsheng knew nothing about business. It's a batch of goods that we brought back from overseas. However, when they passed through Nanyang, they were detained by a local force. That batch of goods is very important to our Junka group, but we sent many people to negotiate, but it was useless. You also know that Nanyang is a place where good people mix with bad people, and there are many gangs. I've been worrying about this recently. When I heard that you were in the capital, I came to report the situation to you and see if you have any connections to get the goods back. Nanyang, a name suddenly popped into Li Changsheng's mind. Gu Mangong. Since he woke up in his previous life, there had been 3 people by his side: Su Xiaolin, Sick Tiger Chiyu, and Gu Mangong. Last time, Chu Yaotian told him that Gu Mangong was now developing in Nanyang. Moreover, he was very powerful and had connections. Tell me the specific situation of this batch of goods. Leave this matter to me. Li Changsheng said. Mei Guanjing had found more than 20 geniuses to nurture. It was likely that he had collected all the easily found geniuses in the entire north, or even the entire country. If he wanted to find any fish that had escaped the net, it would undoubtedly be very difficult. Thinking about it carefully, the only place that Mei Guanjing had not plundered was the Nanyang region. Moreover, Gu Mangong had been operating there for many years and had many eyes and ears. He could help Li Changsheng find people. If he went to Nanyang, he could not only find some disciples of the sects, but also help Ren Juntang get the goods back. It was simply killing two birds with one stone. Li Changsheng instantly made a decision in his heart. Chapter 637. Sir, are you going to Nanyang in person? Ren Juntang asked in surprise. He originally came to look for Li Changsheng because of his relationship with Su Xiaolin. He thought that Li Changsheng could use his connections to get the goods back. Mr. Li, the situation in Nanyang is chaotic. I think it's better if you don't go in person. It's too dangerous. Why don't you ask Su Xiaolin to help you find some connections? Why do you have to take the risk yourself? Ren Juntang advised. He didn't know Li Changsheng's identity as a cultivator, so he was naturally a little worried. Countless people disappeared from the world in Nanyang every day. It was no different from a tiger's den. It's okay. I have other things to deal with in Nanyang. I have a friend in Nanyang. I'll ask him to help me get the goods. I see. Can you take me with you, sir? Our company is doing international business. We need a large number of goods to be transported by sea in the future. We need to find a suitable transportation company to avoid this incident. You're going to Nanyang too? Li Changsheng thought about it and finally nodded. No matter what Ren Juntang did, it was to make money for him. He had no reason to refuse. When we set off, Ren Juntang was more anxious than Li Changsheng. Tomorrow then. Okay, I'll go prepare. After Ren Juntang left, Li Changsheng went to the city to say goodbye to Yishuang. The next morning, a Mercedes-Benz business car stopped at the foot of the mountain. Ren Juntang got out of the car and saw Li Changsheng on the mountain path before he went up the mountain. Let's go. Li Changsheng got into the business car and saw a strong man sitting in the front passenger seat. He was big and had a pair of bell-like eyes that gave off a fierce feeling. Ren Juntang hurriedly introduced. This is a bodyguard I hired from the country. He's a boxing champion and has reached the peak of martial arts. He's very powerful. The boxing champion was also very arrogant. He knew that Li Changsheng was Ren Juntang's boss, but he still looked arrogant. Ren Juntang whispered, "What do you think, Mr. Li? Isn't this bodyguard powerful? With his protection, our safety on this trip to Nanyang can be guaranteed. Nanyang is a ruthless place, especially foreigners like us. It's very easy for us to become the target of various bandits." Li Changsheng smiled and didn't say anything. In his eyes, the boxing champion in front of him had only practiced the obvious strength to the peak. Coupled with his tall stature and extraordinary talent, he was indeed a good fighter, but he was only good enough to deal with those boxing matches with rules. Although he exuded a domineering aura, there was no killing intent in his eyes. This meant that he had never experienced a real battle of life and death. Such a person could deal with people weaker than him, but once he met someone stronger than him, he would have no chance to protect himself at all. Even if his opponent was slightly weaker than him and had gone through a life and death battle, there was a high chance that he would be defeated. I wonder how much his annual salary is. Li Changsheng asked casually. Ren Juntang stretched out 2 fingers. 2 million. Li Changsheng immediately understood and nodded. This price was not high, but it was definitely not low either. In fact, he wanted to tell Ren Juntang that it was better to find one from a bodyguard company than to hire such a bodyguard. After all, the bodyguard had undergone special protection training. Although this burly man was very strong, he was far inferior to those professionals in dealing with unexpected situations. By the way, is the bodyguard paid out of your own pocket? Li Changsheng was puzzled. Of course not. I run around all day for the company. Even if I encounter danger, I offend people for the benefit of the company. Of course, the company pays for it. Ren Juntang said confidently. The car soon arrived at the airport. The driver was brought to Beijing by Ren Juntang. After sending Ren Juntang to the plane, he returned directly to the company's headquarters. As for the bodyguard, he naturally followed the two to the south. In the first-class cabin, Li Changsheng observed the bodyguard. This guy was big and burly, but unfortunately, he had not undergone professional training. He only knew how to sit there and act cool without any awareness of vigilance. This made Li Changsheng feel that his money was somewhat wasted. Ren Juntang was worried all the way. For him, Nanyang was purgatory on earth. If it were not for the company, he would not be willing to go there even if you beat him to death. Mr. Li, did you talk to Su Xiaolin on the phone? Mr. Su is very resourceful. Maybe he has connections in Nanyang and can help us get the goods back. I heard that the power that detained our goods is not ordinary in Nanyang. If we can't find a middleman and rashly go to negotiate with him, we might even be detained. They never reason with people. It's okay. If they are unreasonable, I will reason with them. If I can't reason with them, I will use my fists. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Ren Juntang sighed and became even more worried. He was afraid that Li Changsheng would not listen to his advice and go head-to-head with the other party. If that happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing his worry, Li Changsheng patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, I have connections in Nanyang. I guarantee that they will obediently hand over the goods. There is no need to call Su Xiaolin. Ren Juntang nodded. Since Li Changsheng said so, then he would treat it as a last resort. What if Li Changsheng really had connections in Nanyang? After all, his boss was not ordinary. The plane flew for more than 10 hours. By the time they arrived at their destination, it was already evening. The sky was filled with clouds, making the entire sky red. The three of them got off the plane and followed the crowd outside. Mr. Li, you must be tired from the journey. Let's find a hotel nearby first. Tomorrow, I will send someone to contact the force that intercepted our goods and see what conditions they have and how they will be willing to return the goods to us. At the same time, I will make an appointment with the manager of a transportation company to discuss cooperation. This place is a family-run business. I heard that the manager is a rich second generation who has just taken over the family business and intends to make a career for the elders in the family. Our cooperation is very important to him. Okay, you can arrange these things. However, there is no need to stay in a hotel. There are already people outside to welcome us. Before they came, Li Changsheng asked Qiyu to find a way to inform Gu Mangong. I wonder who is Sir's friend? Ren Juntang looked at the crowd outside and stopped in his tracks. Li Changsheng was also looking for Gu Mangong. At this time, there was a commotion in the crowd. More than 30 strong men in suits, led by a middle-aged man, walked out of the crowd. They were holding a photo in their hands. After glancing at it, they walked straight to Li Changsheng. You must be Mr. Li Changsheng, right? My name is Pang Tai. Boss Gu had something to do and couldn't make it back, so he asked me to come and pick you up. Then he said to the subordinates behind him, "Why aren't you greeting Mr. Li?" "Hello, Mr. Li." More than 30 people cupped their hands and bowed in unison. This attracted the attention of the surrounding people. They were all guessing what kind of big shot had come to make these people welcome him in such a grand manner. Chapter 638. More than 30 strong men bowed at the same time, instantly attracting the attention of most of the passengers in the airport. Ren Juntang and the bodyguard were also dumbfounded. When Li Changsheng said that someone would come to pick them up on the plane, they didn't think much of it. Only now did they realize that Li Changsheng's backer in Nanyang was not ordinary. Why are you making such a big fuss? Li Changsheng shook his head. Back then, Gu Mangong was a guy who didn't know how to keep a low profile. He had been criticized many times, but he didn't change. He didn't expect his subordinates to be the same. Pang Tai seemed to have noticed that Li Changsheng didn't like to be in the limelight. He quickly waved his hand to get his subordinates to straighten their backs. He was also helpless. After knowing that Li Changxing was coming, Gu Mangong was overseas and couldn't make it back in time. He called his assistant to welcome Li Changxing. He also repeatedly reminded Pang Tai to show that he valued Li Changxing and let Li Changxing feel like he had returned home. Pang Tai immediately understood when he heard this. Gu Mangong usually liked to be in the limelight. That was why he made such a fuss. Let's go. We'll talk in the car. Pang Tai's subordinates tactfully went up to take the luggage from Ren Juntong's hands. The few of them walked to the parking lot and saw a row of neatly parked Rolls-Royces. The one at the front was an extended version and looked very imposing. There were many people around pointing at the row of Rolls-Royces. Luxury cars of this level were rare, let alone more than 30 of them together. Some people even took out their phones to take videos and were preparing to post them on social media. Li Changxing was also helpless against such a lineup. Under Pang Tai's guidance, they sat in the Rolls-Royce. Ren Juntang and the bodyguard could only sit in the car behind. As the car started to move, Pang Tai couldn't help but ask curiously, "Mr. Li, what's your relationship with Boss Gu?" "I've been with Boss Gu for almost 10 years. I basically know all of his friends, but this is the first time I've heard of your name." "I'm considered friends with your Boss Gu." Li Changxing smiled and didn't continue on this topic. Pang Tai nodded. Since Li Changxing didn't say anything, he didn't continue to ask. However, there were many doubts hidden in his heart. He was originally in charge of entertaining a manager of the Hong Triad in Southeast Asia. As the largest organization in the world, the Hong Triad had many businesses in Southeast Asia. Since Gu Mangong was an important figure in Southeast Asia, both parties had many business dealings. The head steward of the Hong Triad had a high status, which was why Gu Mangong's trusted aide, was sent to receive him. Who would have thought that he would be called over to receive Li Changxing? If he was asked to receive important figures like Su Xiaolin or Qiyu, it would be one thing. However, it had to be a young man whom he had never heard of before. It was easy to imagine the confusion in his heart. Li Changxing chatted with the other party for a while and then stopped talking. He sat in the car and closed his eyes to rest. Li Changxing's attitude made Gu Mangong's trusted aide feel slightly uncomfortable. As Gu Mangong's right-hand man, he was the second most important person in Gu Mangong's organization. In the entire Nanyang, even if those tycoons with a net worth of hundreds of billions saw him, they would all be polite and respectful. Now, he was just a young man, yet he dared to put on airs in front of him. This made him feel very uncomfortable. However, even though he was unhappy, Li Changxing was Gu Mangong's guest after all. He would only think about it in his heart and wouldn't say it out loud. The cars moved forward. Because the 30 Rolls-Royces had to line up in a formation, they didn't move quickly. In the second car, Ren Juntang was looking at his phone out of boredom. As for the bodyguard, he was puzzled and asked, "CO Ren, who is this Li Changxing? Why are so many people here to receive him?" "I've already told you. He's my boss, the chairman of the Junka Corporation." "Then, who are these people?" The bodyguard pointed at the chauffeur. The chauffeur had a cold face the entire time and was even more arrogant than him. Midway, he tried to talk to the chauffeur, but the chauffeur completely ignored him. This inevitably made him a little unhappy and felt that he was being looked down upon. "I'm not sure either. We'll ask Mr. Li later." After Ren Juntang finished speaking, the driver finally said coldly, "We're Boss Gu's subordinates. The person sitting in the car in front is Boss Gu's trusted aide, Pang Tai." "What's Boss Gu's full name?" "I used to fight in Southeast Asia a few years ago, so I have some understanding of Southeast Asia." The bodyguard was very curious. Even a driver was so arrogant. He wanted to know where this driver's confidence came from. There are 30 Rolls-Royces outside, and they have the surname Gu. You can't even guess the identity of our boss. With your intelligence, if you were to make a living in Southeast Asia, I'm afraid you wouldn't survive more than a week. How can you say that? The bodyguard was about to fly into a rage when he heard that. At this moment, the driver turned around and glanced at him. At that moment, a chill ran down the bodyguard's spine. At the same time, a thought flashed through his mind, and his eyes were instantly filled with shock. Could it be Gu Mangong, Boss Gu? At this moment, the bodyguard's expression changed completely. Rin Juntang had asked him to be his bodyguard and to follow him to Southeast Asia. He had always thought that even if Rin Juntang and Li Changsheng had some friends in Southeast Asia, they wouldn't have much influence. That was why he had been so careful. However, he hadn't expected Li Changsheng's friend in Southeast Asia to be Gu Mangong. In Southeast Asia, why would anyone need a bodyguard if they knew Gu Mangong? Gu Mangong was the biggest protective talisman. Rin Juntang, who was sitting in the back, was also shocked. Before coming to Southeast Asia, he had already investigated the situation in Southeast Asia. Naturally, he knew who was the most powerful and had the final say in Southeast Asia. Li Changsheng was really impressive. First, he knew the two big shots, Su Xiaolin and Qi Xian. Now, he even knew Gu Mangong. Rin Juntang's originally anxious state of mind calmed down instantly. The car drove for more than 40 minutes before stopping in front of a huge manor. There were already many people waiting at the door to welcome them. Since Gu Mangong had instructed Pang Tai to make the scene bigger, Pang Tai called many of his subordinates to welcome Li Changsheng. Even a few of Gu Mangong's subordinates who had quite a bit of authority appeared. The scene at the airport was already big enough. Who would have thought that the scene at the manor's entrance would be even bigger? Li Changsheng wasn't used to such a high-profile scene. Thus, he said to Pang Tai, asked them to disperse. What's the point of making such a big scene? Li Changsheng's voice was very calm. However, when Pang Tai heard it, he didn't feel comfortable. In the car, Li Changsheng had displayed a very casual attitude, which made him feel neglected. Now that Li Changsheng had asked him to disperse the welcoming team, he was even more dissatisfied. However, he didn't say anything. Instead, he waved his hand and asked everyone to leave. Then, he got a subordinate to bring Li Changsheng and the rest to rest. After Li Changsheng and the rest left, a few powerful people surrounded Pang Tai. Old Pang, who is this kid? He actually asked so many of us to welcome him. For what he said just now, it seems like he doesn't like such a lineup. An old man who had followed Gu Mangong for half his life asked. I don't know either. He's young, but he's quite arrogant. Pang Tai shook his head. Then, old Pang will disperse first. During the welcome banquet later, we brothers must have a good drink or two. Hearing the old man's words, Pang Tai snorted coldly. What welcome banquet? Since he doesn't like crowds, I think we should just forget about it. How can we do that? The welcome banquet was ordered by the boss. If we just forget about it, what if the boss isn't happy when he comes back? Don't worry. We followed the boss for so many years. Even if the boss isn't happy, he'll at most scold us a little. He can't possibly punish us because of an outsider, right? Furthermore, I was the one who ordered the cancellation of the welcome banquet. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. I'll naturally explain it to the boss. Since that's the case, we can only drink another day. The old man patted Pang Tai's shoulder and then dispersed. Pang Tai looked in the direction where Li Changsheng had disappeared and sneered. Kid, I wanted to receive you grandly, but since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being petty. Not only will there be no welcome banquet, but you'll also have to starve for dinner tonight. Chapter 639. Li Changsheng and the rest were arranged to stay in a large villa in the manor. Along the way, the arrogant bodyguard's attitude towards Li Changsheng had undergone a complete change. Those who had never been to Nanyang would never know what the name Gu Mangong meant. Since Mr. Li is welcomed personally by Gu Mangong, why would he need a bodyguard like me in Nanyang? The bodyguard, who had always been confident in himself, suddenly felt that his existence had lost its value. Li Changsheng did not say anything about the bodyguard's change. Rin Juntang also felt a little emotional. This boss of his was really omnipotent. Li Changsheng and the rest confirmed their rooms. It was already past 7 p.m. Logically speaking, there should be a welcome banquet for Li Changsheng. However, as time passed, no one came to invite Li Changsheng for a meal. There wasn't even dinner, let alone a welcome banquet. At 9 p.m., Li Changsheng's face was completely gloomy. Rin Juntang and the bodyguard beside him were also complaining. It's already 9 p.m. It's obvious that there's no dinner. What's going on? Isn't Mr. Li Gu Mangong's friend? Why isn't he even eating? The bodyguard said with a frown. Rin Juntang took out some snacks from his bag and gave them to the bodyguard. Li Changsheng did not eat them. At his level, it wouldn't be a problem even if he didn't eat for half a month. Looks like this subordinate of Gu Mangong is an interesting person. Li Changsheng walked back to the house and started cultivating. Although it was difficult to increase his strength by blindly cultivating at his level, cultivating was like breathing. It had long become a part of his life. The next morning, someone finally came to invite Li Changsheng and the rest for breakfast. After all, Li Changsheng was someone that Gu Mangong wanted to entertain. The other party did not dare to go overboard. Mr. Li, I'm really sorry. I was busy yesterday and forgot to prepare a welcome banquet for you. You're a magnanimous person. You won't blame me, right? Pang Tai walked over with a fake smile. Did he forget, or did he do it on purpose? Li Changsheng slapped Pang Tai's outstretched hand aside. Pang Tai's face turned extremely ugly in front of his subordinates. He originally thought that no matter how unhappy Li Changsheng was, he would still be polite on the surface. After all, Pang Tai, was Gu Mangong's most trusted subordinate. However, he never thought that Li Changsheng would not give him any face at all. There were still many important people under Gu Mangong in the canteen. When they saw this scene, their faces were filled with anger. They had known Pang Tai for a long time, and Li Changsheng was ultimately an outsider. No one would side with him. Pang Tai's face alternated between red and green. Finally, he could not help but say, Mr. Li, I, Pang Tai, am a well-known figure in Nanyang. I hope you can take the initiative to apologize for what happened just now. After Pang Tai finished speaking, the several brawny men behind him all stared at Li Changsheng with unfriendly expressions. The smell of gunpowder was thick in the air. I'm Gu Mangong's friend. You didn't even prepare dinner for me last night. Aren't you afraid that your boss will blame you? Li Changsheng walked to a table in the canteen and sat down. Rin Juntang and the bodyguards were all trembling with fear. Although Li Changsheng knew Gu Mangong, and Gu Mangong had also asked Pang Tai to bring out such a big lineup to welcome Li Changsheng yesterday, none of them knew what the relationship between the two was. Now that they had offended an important person under Gu Mangong, if the other party turned hostile, they might not be able to leave Nanyang alive. They felt that Li Changsheng's actions were too reckless. I already said that I didn't prepare dinner for you last night because I was busy and forgot. Why? It's just a meal. Do you want me to kowtow and apologize? That's right. Pang Tai snorted coldly. Yes, Boss Gu's friend. To be honest, I don't dare to do anything to you. However, I prepared this breakfast carefully. I don't want to give it to you, so please leave the canteen. Pang Tai pointed at the door. If not for the fact that he had not figured out the relationship between Li Changsheng and Gu Mangong, he would have already attacked him. As Gu Mangong's #1 subordinate, who would dare to embarrass him in front of everyone? All right, since I can't even eat, I think I'd better move out. At least my friends won't have to starve with me. Li Changsheng instructed Rin Juntang and the bodyguard. You two pack up your things. We'll leave this place. Okay. Rin Juntang nodded hurriedly. Seeing that Li Changsheng and Pang Tai had seen through him, he felt uneasy staying in this manner. So Mr. Li wants to move out? It's not that I want to chase you away. When the time comes, just don't complain to Boss Gu. Pang Tai said sarcastically. I definitely won't complain. However, when your Boss Gu comes back, if you want to move back, you'll have to kneel down and beg me. What did you say? Kneel down and beg you to come back? Li, who do you think you are? Even if you're Boss Gu's brother, based on the contributions I've made for Boss Gu all these years, he won't ask me to kneel down and beg him. Is that so? Li Changsheng smiled, got up, and walked out of the canteen. At this moment, many people surrounded him. This brat is too arrogant. Who does he think he is? How dare he ask you to kneel down and beg him to come back? That's right. Who doesn't know that Master Pang is Boss Gu's right-hand man? How could Boss Gu have such a friend? What a joke. The surrounding people were discussing. Pang Tai looked in the direction where Li Changsheng had disappeared, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. After leaving the manor, Li Changsheng and the other two took a taxi to a five-star hotel. They had originally planned to meet the leader of the organization who had confiscated their goods today, but now they could only settle down first. Mr. Li, originally, we had a 90% chance of getting the goods back under Gu Mangong's name. However, now that we can't use Gu Mangong's name to intimidate others, I'm afraid it'll be even more difficult to get the goods back. Rin Juntang said helplessly. Don't worry, Li Changxing comforted him. Even without Gu Mangong, it won't be difficult to get the goods back. Furthermore, who said that we had fallen out with Gu Mangong? We only offended one of Gu Mangong's subordinates. It doesn't matter. Gu Mangong will return to Nanyang tomorrow. At that time, he will bring that subordinate over to apologize. Let's go and have breakfast first, then we'll meet the young master of the family who wants to work with us. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Rin Juntang nodded his head. He didn't eat much the previous night, so he was indeed hungry. However, he didn't believe Li Changsheng when he said that Gu Mangong would bring his subordinate over to apologize. What kind of person was Gu Mangong? How could he possibly bow down and apologize to someone? As for Pang Tai, as Gu Mangong's trusted subordinate, Gu Mangong would probably only reprimand him a little for Li Changxing's matter and forget about it. He might not even reprimand him. The way to control subordinates was to let them feel that they were valued. Only then would they be loyal to you. Rin Juntang was in charge of a large company and knew this very well. Therefore, he felt that Li Changsheng had overestimated him. Chapter 640. The partner that Rin Juntang found was a maritime transportation company with dozens of cargo ships of various types under their name. They were very powerful. In Nanyang, there were all sorts of people, and the seizure of the Junka Group's goods was an example. Without the help of local forces, it would be extremely difficult to do business here. Cooperating with this company and borrowing their ships to transport goods was safe and worry-free. However, both parties were in long-term cooperation, so the price needed to be carefully discussed. This time, the person who came to negotiate was the general manager of this company, who was also the future heir of this family company. It was said that this person used to be a good-for-nothing and did not have a good reputation. Now that he wanted to take charge of the family business, there were many voices of doubt inside and outside the family. He was eager to prove himself in the family, and this cooperation with the Junka Group was also very important to him. Rin Juntang brought Li Changsheng to the headquarters of the other party's company in Nanyang. As soon as they entered the company, the other party personally came out to greet them. The man looked to be less than 30 years old, and there were several company executives behind him. Now that he was the general manager of the company, he was giving Rin Juntang enough face by personally coming out to greet them. Hello, Mr. Rin. I've been waiting for you for a long time, and you're finally here. We've talked a few times through video calls, and now I see you in person. You're really charming. The other party came up and grabbed Rin Juntang's hand. He was incomparably friendly, and there was no arrogance and despotism in his behavior at all. He was more of a smooth and slick person. The so-called good-for-nothing was not simple-minded, but they were born with privileges that ordinary people did not have. They did not have to pay the corresponding consequences when they made a mistake, so their style of doing things was inevitably a little overbearing. Once a prodigal turned over a new leaf, the excellent side of the family nurtured would be shown, just like the general manager, He Xian, in front of him. Under He Xian's lead and the company of several executives, they walked into the conference room and sat down. Because Li Changxing's image was not that conspicuous, he was naturally thought of as Rin Juntang's assistant and did not communicate with Li Changxing at all. After everyone sat down, He Xian said a few more polite words. Then he asked the secretary next to him to bring a stack of contracts and handed it to Rin Juntang. Director Rin, this is the content of the contract that I asked someone to draft. Take a look. If you think there are no problems, you can sign the contract. You're a big customer, and we're also a big family in Nanyang. If you and I cooperate, it will be a strong alliance. You can rest assured that with the He family status in Nanyang, the goods that you choose to transport from us will definitely be safe. All right, I'll be counting on you in the future. Rin Juntang took the contract and began to flip through it. A contract between a large company like this must be read carefully. Sometimes a single word difference could lead to a loss of millions. As he watched, Rin Juntang's brows gradually furrowed. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong? He Xian asked. Rin Juntang nodded. Director, I don't have any objections to the other contracts, but isn't the transportation price a little high? Hearing Rin Juntang's words, He Xian immediately laughed and said, I knew that Director Ren would definitely have objections to the price, but my price is very fair. Cross-border trade involves all kinds of relationships. It's not as simple as it looks on the surface. Not to mention anything else, just the 2 ports in Nanyang and abroad, as well as the various risks that may be encountered on the way, will actually cost more than double the money on the surface, so this price is already our bottom line. Can it be lower? Rin Juntang knew that what He Xian said was not simple, but the amount of money that would be spent was definitely much higher. There were several companies in Nanyang whose prices were actually lower than this, but those companies were not as powerful as the He family, and could not guarantee that the goods would be transported back without any damage every time. This He Xian was aware of this, so he opened his mouth like a lion and quoted such a price. Director Ren, take a look at this. He Xian took out a piece of paper from the folder with a bunch of numbers written on it. This is a rough list of the various costs for a round trip of our ship. Take a good look. Rin Juntang took it and placed it between him and Li Changsheng. When Rin Juntang saw the middle, he could not help but look at He Xian and said, among the various costs, just the unknown risks alone account for 1/3. What do you mean by risk? It was no wonder that Rin Juntang had this question. If the unknown risks were excluded, the price could be lowered by 30%, which would be 30 million yuan a year. The risks naturally refer to natural and man-made disasters, storms at sea, pirates, and various forces in Nanyang. Storms at sea and the like should not be borne by us. Even if we have to bear it, we should not bear all of it. Moreover, the Junka Group is not the only company looking for you to transport the goods. As for the various forces, what does that have to do with the Junka Group? The reason why we are looking for you to cooperate is because of your status in Nanyang. If all of this requires us to spend money, then I might as well open my own transportation company. Rin Juntang was a little unhappy. This time, he came with sincerity, but the other party was obviously not sincere. Haha, don't be angry, Mr. Run. If you think that the He family's price is a little high, you can also look for others to cooperate with. However, they don't want these costs, and I'm afraid they can't guarantee a 100% return of the goods to you. In the end, the risk will still be borne by the Junka Group. The other party's words made Rin Juntang speechless. Indeed, the reason why the last batch of goods was detained was because they looked for a small company. In the end, after the goods were detained, the company immediately ran away. Because Nanyang was a place where various forces were involved, after the other party ran away, Rin Juntang could not do anything. He could only bear the losses himself and think of a way to get the goods back. However, if he signed a contract just like that, Rin Juntang was a little unwilling. Mr. He, you are forcing me to cooperate with other companies. Don't forget your current situation. If I choose to look for other companies, then it will be difficult for you to find a partner as big as the Junka Group in a short time to consolidate your position in the company. This is not something that Mr. Ren should be worried about. He Xian leaned back and leaned on the chair with his hands behind his head. It seemed that he had Rin Juntang under his control. He didn't need the Junka Group to join to stabilize his position. But even if the cooperation with the Junka Group did not work out, it would not be a big blow to him. The Junka Group was not his only partner, but if he cooperated with the Junka Group, he would have a lot of benefits. The Junka Group was different. In the maritime logistics business in Nanyang, only the He family could guarantee the safety of the goods, so it became the Junka Group's only choice. Chapter 641. What should I do? Rin Juntang couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng. It seemed that he had no other choice. However, the cost of signing the contract was too high. Even if he was a business genius, he didn't know what to do at this moment. Originally, He Xian didn't care about Li Changsheng, but he felt a little strange about Rin Juantang's behavior at this moment. Did the general manager of a company need to ask for the opinion of a subordinate? Or was this young man actually a senior member of the Junka Group, one of the members of Rin Juantang's advisory group? One had to know that a good man had 3 helpers. Many company leaders would have their own team of advisors to give them advice and analyze the market. Li Changxing thought about it and knew that it was time for him to come forward. It was obvious that Rin Juntang had been checkmated, so he could only rely on himself. Mr. He, the premise of cooperation between the buyer and the seller is integrity. We should sign the contract on the basis of equality and mutual benefit. As far as I know, you also need to cooperate with our Junka Group to prove yourself. As long as you're willing to lower the price, I think we can become good business partners. It seemed that he didn't expect Li Changshan to stand up directly, but He Xian still shook his head and said, "We have already given the lowest price. There's no room for discussion." Li Changsheng shook his head. "Then it's a pity that I can't work with President He. However, if President He thinks that I won't be able to find a partner if I don't work with you, then I think President He has miscalculated. I can put it this way. After walking out of this door, we will easily find a partner with a satisfactory price." "Really?" He Xian chuckled a few times. "Yes, there are many companies in the ocean transportation business in Nanyang. But have you forgotten how your last batch of goods was detained? I naturally have a way to get the last batch of goods back, and I promise that no force will dare to detain my Junka Group's goods on this route in the future. The reason why your He family is so confident is that you have connections among the forces in Nanyang. I promise that no matter which company cooperates with my Junka Group in the future, I can let them have the same connections as your He family." "Really?" He Xian couldn't help but laugh. "My He family's connections are based on my decades of operation in Nanyang. Your Junka Group is indeed very rich, but do you think you can build such connections with money alone? Don't be naive. If it was really that simple, my He family wouldn't be the only one in the ocean transportation business. Then let's wait and see. It won't be long before you know that any company that cooperates with my Junka Group will become a maritime logistics company no weaker than your He family." After that, Li Changxing stood up. "I think there's no need for us to continue talking today. If your He family doesn't show any sincerity, there's no possibility of us cooperating in the future." At this moment, He Xian said, "Who do you think you are? It's not up to you to decide whether we can negotiate or not." Although He Xian thought that he had grasped the weakness of the Junka Group and was forcing them step by step, he didn't want this deal to really fail. After all, he also needed the Junka Group to prove itself. It was just that a man who was never content was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Of course he can make the decision. At this time, Rin Juntang also stood up and tidied up the documents on the table. "He's the chairman of my Junka Group. So, Mr. He, think about it carefully." After that, Li Changsheng walked out of the conference room. He Xian didn't realize it until they stepped into the elevator. He didn't expect that the ordinary-looking young man next to Rin Junang was the chairman of the Junka Group, and he was so young. "Director He, is this deal going to fall through just like that? You know, if you win this business, many people will look at you in a new light. Junka Group is really powerful. Even if we lower the price by 30%, we can still make a lot of money." A middle-aged man next to him said, "Of course, I know the importance of this deal, but we can't rush things. The reason why the Junka Group chose to cooperate with us is that the partner they chose last time was too weak, so their goods are confiscated. Looking at the entire Nanyang Maritime Trading Company, our He family is the strongest, so they have no other choice. Even if they spend tens of millions of yuan every year, they can only cooperate with our He family. Otherwise, they can't afford the loss of their goods. Don't worry, it won't take 3 days for them to come back and beg us." "Mr. He, what you said makes sense. If Junka Group spends tens of millions of yuan to sign a contract with us, those who oppose you will definitely shut up." Another person nodded and agreed. He Xian's eyes were full of pride. "Humph, what a *T chairman. He's just a kid who is still wet behind the ears. How dare he be so rude to me today? Let's see how he will lower his head and beg me next time." After leaving the He family's company, Ren Juntang couldn't help but sigh. This He family is indeed a little too much. I also underestimated this playboy. However, if we don't cooperate with the He family, we really don't have a better partner in Nanyang. Those small companies are cheap, but they can't guarantee the safety of the goods. Even if we sign the contract, we can't do anything to them if they turn around and run away. It's okay, don't worry. Don't be fooled by the He family's arrogance now, as if we have to beg them. As soon as the relationship between Junka Group and Gumangong is exposed, they will have to come and beg us. With Gumangong's power in Nanyang, as long as he says a word, no one will dare to detain our goods. At that time, it will be a golden ticket to avoid death. No matter which company cooperates with us, it will be equivalent to opening up all kinds of connections in Nanyang without bloodshed. The results of the He family's decades of hard work will be achieved by that company in just a few days. In less than a year, the He family's monopoly will be broken. Not only will the He family lose this deal with Junka Group, but they will also be replaced as the leader in the industry. When Ren Juntang heard Li Chongqing's thoughts, he didn't show any joy on his face. He knew that Li Chongqing wasn't wrong, but this result depended on the relationship between Li Chongqing and Gumangong. This time, Li Chongqing and Gumangong's subordinates had a conflict. It was rumored that Gumangong treated his subordinates like brothers. When the time came, between Pang Tai and Li Chongqing, who would Gumangong choose to side with? Ren Juntang didn't think highly of Li Chongqing. Chapter 642. At Nanyang Airport, a tall middle-aged man walked out accompanied by 2 bodyguards. He was dressed in casual clothes and was very tall. There was an air of arrogance between his eyebrows, giving people a very flamboyant feeling. He was like a sharp sword that showed off its edge. Even if he just stood there and did not speak, he gave people a sense of oppression. "Boss, the car is parked at the airport. I'll get it," a bodyguard said respectfully. Gumangong nodded. Soon, a Rolls-Royce drove over. He sat in the car and went straight to his manor. Half an hour later, the black Rolls-Royce drove into the courtyard through the gate. Gumangong could not wait to go to the lobby. At the entrance of the lobby, Pang Tai and a group of senior executives had been waiting for a long time. "Boss, you're back." Pang Tai hurried over. "Yes, it took me more than 10 hours to rush back. I've never been so anxious before." Gumangong strode into the lobby. Seeing that there was no one in the lobby, he looked at Pang Tai doubtfully. "Where's Mr. Li?" Pang Tai was a little hesitant. He had already come up with an excuse, but when Gumangong's gaze landed on him, he forgot all about it. "Mr. Li, Pang Tai stuttered and did not dare to look into Gumangong's eyes. Gumangong's face instantly darkened. Thinking of his subordinate's nature, he could not help but say coldly, "Did you do something to make Mr. Li unhappy? Tell me quickly." When he said the last 2 words, Pang Tai's body suddenly trembled. Mr. Li was not satisfied with the environment in our manor and moved out. When Pang Tai finished speaking, Gumangong's eyes were already cold. He looked at the other subordinates. "What exactly happened? Tell me about it." The old man who was called out by Gumangong stood up, trembling in fear. "Don't lie to me. If I find out that you're lying, you'll have to bear the consequences." The old man, who had originally intended to speak up for Pang Tai, turned pale when he heard this. Trembling, he recounted the grudge between Pang Tai and Li Chongqing after his arrival. Although he couldn't help but defend Pang Tai during this period of time, it was mostly the truth. "You with the surname Pang, how dare you? I told you to treat Mr. Li like how I treat you, and this is what you did?" Gumangong's eyes burned with rage. "That Li Chongqing doesn't know the rules at all. I set up a formation to welcome him, but he didn't appreciate it. Pang Tai, I'm also a well-known figure in Nanyang, so I just gave him a small lesson." Pang Tai thought of the many contributions he had made for Gumangong over the years and felt that his position in Gumangong's heart was higher than that little brat's. Thus, he straightened his chest. But just as he finished speaking, Gumangong raised his hand and slapped his face. "Pa!" The sound was crisp, and Pang Tai's mouth was bleeding from the slap. "Pang Tai, you really have guts." You've done something wrong, yet you still speak with conviction. I'm really disappointed in you. Gu Mangong said angrily. Now, follow me to the hotel where Mr. Li is staying. Kneel in front of the hotel and apologize to Mr. Li. If you invite Mr. Li back, I'll give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. What if I can't invite him back? Pang Tai blurted out. If you can't invite him back, I'll give you a sum of money since you've followed me for so many years. You can find a place where no one knows you and live out your old age peacefully. Pang Tai's eyes revealed a trace of fear when he said this. He was now at the peak of his life. Asking him to retire was as painful as killing him. Pang Tai was stunned that Gu Mangong was going to treat him so cruelly just for that young man. Let's go. Gu Mangong sighed. Don't think that my punishment is too heartless. This is also because you've followed me for so many years. Otherwise, I would have thrown you into the sea to feed the sharks. With that, Gu Mangong strode out of the hall. The group of higher-ups hurriedly followed behind. Pang Tai reacted and couldn't care less about the shock in his heart. He knew that Gu Mangong was a man of his words and wouldn't go back on his words. If he couldn't invite Li Chongqing back, he was afraid that he would really have to leave the center of power and live out his old age peacefully. This was unacceptable for a person with great power and limitless glory. It was only now that he began to regret his actions. Li Chongqing, Run Juntang, and the bodyguard took a taxi back to the five-star hotel they were staying at. The taxi had just stopped by the road when they saw many people crowding in front of the hotel. What happened? Why are there so many people crowding around? Ren Juntang was puzzled. Li Chongqing didn't say anything and walked forward quickly. When he got closer, he saw a few familiar figures. They were the few people he saw in front of Gu Mangong's manor yesterday. There's someone kneeling there. It looks like Pang Tai. Ren Juntang was surprised. At this moment, Pang Tai, who was kneeling there, shouted, Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please forgive me. What's going on? Pang Tai seems to be here to apologize. Ren Juntang was dumbfounded. Mr. Li is here. At this moment, someone noticed Li Chongqing and the rest. Countless gazes were focused on Li Chongqing and the rest. Move aside, move aside. A figure walked out from the crowd. The moment he saw Li Chongqing, he knelt down with a thud. Mr. Li, I finally see you again. It was Gu Mangong. At this moment, his eyes were brimming with tears. The surrounding crowd and Gu Mangong's subordinates were all dumbfounded. Everyone knew that this was the famous Gu Mangong. Now, Gu Mangong actually knelt down in front of the young man and looked very emotional. Even Gu Mangong's subordinates were seeing this for the first time, let alone the surrounding crowd. When had the Emperor of Nanyang, Gu Mangong, ever lost his composure like this? Get up, little Gu. Li Chongqing went forward and helped Gu Mangong up. At the side, Run Juntang and the bodyguards felt as if they were in a dream. Li Chongqing actually called Gu Mangong little Gu, and looking at Gu Mangong's expression, he seemed to be enjoying it. What was wrong with the world? Mr. Li, I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you angry. Please punish me. At this moment, Pang Tai knelt in front of Li Chongqing and raised his hand to slap his own face. Li Chongqing looked suspiciously at Gu Mangong, who was beside him. Gu Mangong scoffed coldly. He dared to be rude to Sir. Letting him kneel is a light punishment. If Sir is still angry, then break his legs to teach him a lesson. After Gu Mangong said that, Pang Tai couldn't help but tremble. As Gu Mangong's trusted subordinate, he understood him the best. Since he said that, he definitely wasn't joking. Mr. Li, I was wrong. I was wrong. Pang Tai's begging voice instantly increased by a few decibels. If Li Chongqing just nodded, he wouldn't be able to keep his legs. Chapter 643. All right, you don't have to cry in front of me. You were very arrogant in the morning. Li Chongqing said plainly. Pang Tai's slaps became louder. Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please forgive me. All right. I can't be bothered to argue with you. Li Chongqing waved his hand. Seeing that there were more and more people around, he said coldly, Get up first. Yes. Pang Tai had just stood up when he heard Li Chongqing say, I feel that this hotel is quite convenient, so I won't be going back to the manor. This matter ends here. Gu Mangong, tell your men to go back. All right. Gu Mangong nodded and was about to speak when he heard a thud. Pang Tai, who had just stood up, knelt on the ground again with a long face. Before he came, Gu Mangong said that if he couldn't invite Li Chongsheng back, he could retire early. Originally, Li Chongsheng had forgiven him, and this matter was over. Now that Mr. Li said that he wouldn't be going back to the manor, he really wanted to die. What is this? Li Chongsheng furrowed his brows. Gu Mangong leaned over to Li Chongsheng's ear and whispered a few words. Li Chongsheng glanced at Gu Mangong. I see. Then he said to Pang Tai, who was kneeling on the ground, get up. I won't be going back to the manor because I feel that I'm quite used to it. As for your matter, as long as I forgive you, Gu Mangong won't punish you anymore. Really? Pang Tai looked at Gu Mangong questioningly. Gu Mangong nodded. Mr. Li's words are equivalent to my words. However, whether you can keep your current position and not retire early depends on whether Mr. Li forgives you or not. Get up first. I have something for you to do. If you do it well, the grudge between us will be written off. If you don't, then don't blame me for being heartless. All right. Pang Tai stood up once again. Today he had lost all his face. If he still could not maintain his position, then he could only accept his fate. The reason I came to Nanyang this time is because I have two things to do. One of them is that a company under my name imported a batch of goods from overseas. When I passed by Nanyang on my way back, it was detained by a local force. I want to take back the detained goods. As he spoke, he turned to look at Rin Juntang, who was still in a daze. Director Run, tell Pang Tai about the power that detained our company's goods. Didn't he say that he's famous in Nanyang? It's a good opportunity for him to help us get our goods back. Okay. Only then did Ren Juntang react. His face was filled with ecstasy. Originally, he had come to Nanyang to ask for the goods. He knew that the other party would definitely not give up so easily and was prepared to pay a heavy price. However, with Pang Tai's help, it would be completely different. Pang Tai was Gu Mangong's second in command. If he stepped in, it would be easy to get the goods back. Not only would he not have to spend a single cent, but the other party might even have to apologize to him. After all, the title of Emperor of Nanyang was not for nothing. When Pang Tai heard that it was a power in Nanyang that detained Li Chongsheng's goods, he felt relieved. In Nanyang, Gu Mangong was truly omnipotent. There was no power that Gu Mangong could not afford to offend. Pang Tai got up from the ground and heaved a sigh of relief. He had knelt for more than an hour, crying and slapping himself. Finally, it was not in vain. The person who detained our goods is called Zhao Dahu. I've asked around and found out that he has quite a lot of power in Nanyang. It seems like there's someone backing him. Hearing Run Juntang's words, Pang Tai laughed and said, so it's this guy. The person behind him is called Ao Sun, nicknamed the Dragon King. His strength can be ranked in the top 10 in Nanyang. That Zhao Dahu used to be a pirate, and after he joined Ao Sun, he stopped doing business as a pirate. However, when he ran out of money, he would still return to his old business. The company you chose was too small, so he had his eyes on you. In addition, he knows that you're not a local power, so I'm afraid he'll demand an exorbitant price. However, even his master, Ao Sun, has to be respectful when he sees me. Rin Juntang was overjoyed when he heard this. At this moment, Gu Mangong looked at Li Chongsheng. Mr. Li, you said that there are two matters in Nanyang. This is a small matter that can be easily resolved. Logically speaking, you should be able to settle it with just a word. You must have other important matters, right? That's right. Gu Mangong, come with me first. Get your men to disperse first. Pang Tai, stay behind and come with me to get the goods. I want to see what kind of hero dared to withhold my goods. After Li Chongsheng finished giving his orders, he and Gu Mangong went to a corner. Recently, I've been preparing to establish a cultivation sect and select some disciples with good martial arts aptitude. You've been operating in Nanyang for many years and have many eyes and ears. Therefore, I need to borrow your strength. You must do this well for me. All right, I'll do my best to complete Mr. Li's orders. Gu Mangong nodded his head and a troubled expression appeared on his face. "Mr. Li, you know that my men are all ordinary people. Even if they meet a cultivation genius, they might not be able to tell. It's a waste of talent. Don't worry. I've already made preparations." A stack of talismans that had been drawn appeared in Li Changxing's hands. "This is a spirit qi sensing talisman. Let your men hold it. This talisman can sense the spirit qi in a person's body, as long as it's a cultivation genius. Even if they haven't embarked on the path of cultivation, their body will definitely produce spirit qi due to their special physique. Once this talisman discovers a life form with spirit qi, it will automatically burn. It's only a one-time use. I'll leave it to you." Gu Mangong took the talismans from Li Changxing's hands. He took one out and examined it carefully, clicking his tongue in wonder. Gu Mangong was the only one among the three people who followed Li Changxing back then who had a good cultivation aptitude. Before Li Changxing's tribulation in his previous life, he had already reached the Xiantian realm. This time, he was already at the profound realm. The reason why Gu Mangong was able to reign supreme in the vast Nanyang was because he was resourceful, capable, and courageous. However, the most important reason was that he was a Taoist cultivator. How could ordinary secular forces resist the means of a cultivator? With that, Gu Mangong and Li Changxing returned to their previous positions. Gu Mangong's men had already left. Only Pang Tai, Run Juntang, and the bodyguard who was still standing there foolishly were left. With Gu Mangong's protection in Nanyang, his existence as a bodyguard was a little redundant. "All right, little Gu, go and do what I've instructed you to do. I'll bring Pang Tai and Rin Juntang to ask for the goods." Li Changxing made arrangements. "Mr. Li, are you really not going to stay in my manor?" Hearing Gu Mangong's words, Li Changxing waved his hand. "No, it's the same to me wherever I stay. You should understand." Gu Mangong didn't say anything else. After bidding farewell to Li Changxing, he got into the car and left. Li Changxing, Run Juntang, and Pang Tai also set off to look for Zhao Dao. Chapter 644. In a disco, because it was still daytime, it wasn't open yet. Only a few waiters were dozing off on the tables. "Mr. Li, that Zhao Dao usually stays in this place. This is the place he just opened this year." A Rolls-Royce stopped in front of the disco. Li Changxing, Pang Tai, and Rin Juntang got out of the car. Pang Tai was a famous figure in Nanyang, but he was extremely respectful when he followed beside Li Changxing. After this incident, he completely understood Li Changxing's position in Gu Mangong's heart. He would never dare to offend Li Changxing again. The chauffeur in charge of driving opened the door of the disco, and a few of them strode in. In the dim yellow room, a few waiters looked at the uninvited guests in shock. Soon, there was a series of footsteps from inside, and a few burly men rushed out. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Nanyang was more chaotic, and there were killings almost every day. Although Zhao Dahu had some power in Nanyang, he had many enemies as well. He had a group of bodyguards with him at all times. "I want to see your boss," Li Changxing said. Immediately, a person jogged up to the second floor. Not long after, a fierce-looking man in a nightgown walked out, yawning. Soon, more than 20 people rushed out behind him. "Who's looking for me?" The man's gaze swept across Li Changxing's group and frowned. "You should be Zhao Dao." Pang Tai crawled over to Li Changxing and whispered in his ear. People like Zhao Dahu were not qualified to come into contact with him. "Why are you looking for me?" Zhao Dahu saw that there were only 5 people in Li Changxing's group. Other than Rin Juntang's bodyguard and chauffeur, Li Changxing's group seemed easy to deal with, so he was relieved. "I'm the one looking for you," Li Changxing said. "Some time ago, you detained a batch of goods that were being transported from overseas to the mainland. Those goods are mine. I'm here today to ask you to return them to me." Hearing Li Changxing's words, Zhao Dahu's eyes revealed a hint of sharpness, but his expression did not change. He directly walked down to the first floor and sat down on a chair. A group of subordinates stood neatly behind him, looking very imposing. Even with Pang Tai present, Rin Juntang couldn't help but show some fear. In the end, he was only a merchant and had never seen such a scene before. Dark. So it's a guest from the mainland. Have you prepared the money? Zhao Dahu crossed his legs, took out a cigar from his pocket, put it in his mouth, and lit it. He was very calm. This was his territory, and Li Changsheng and the others were outsiders. Of course, he didn't care about them. This Zhao Dahu indeed had some imposing manner. Ordinary people would not even dare to breathe loudly in front of him. But how could Li Changsheng be afraid of him? Of course. Li Changsheng smiled. We've troubled Mr. Zhao to help us look after our goods for more than half a month. How can we let Mr. Zhao work for nothing? As he spoke, he asked Ren Juntang to take out a bank card. There's 30,000 yuan in this card. Take it as Mr. Zhao's fee for his hard work. How about it? Li Changsheng pretended to hand the bank card to Zhao Dahu. When Zhao Dahu heard that Li Changsheng took the money, his face revealed a smile. However, when he heard that it was only 30,000 yuan, his face immediately darkened. Brat, 30,000 yuan? Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? I don't have time to joke with you. I don't have time to joke with you either. 30,000 yuan is already giving you face. Those goods are ours. I don't need to spend money to take my own things. Li Changsheng also smiled coldly. The goods were detained by Zhao Dahu for half a month. How many things were delayed and how much money was lost? Looks like Mr. Zhao doesn't want the 30,000 yuan. Li Changsheng took back the bank card again. If you want to take away this batch of goods, you need at least 1 million yuan. According to my investigation, the value of this batch of goods is not cheap. If you don't take out 1 million yuan, then I'll sell this batch of goods to others. Zhao Dahu stood up slowly. I'll give you 3 days to gather the money. After 3 days, I won't wait for you. As he spoke, he was about to walk up the stairs. Wait a minute, Li Changsheng shouted. You don't need to give me 3 days. I won't give you 1 million yuan, but you must give me the goods today. What? Zhao Dahu's figure paused and turned around. His eyes revealed a bit of coldness. Brat, don't tell me you want to play hard with me. You're a foreigner. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know how many eyes this Lord Ma has. As he spoke, he ordered a subordinate next to him. This brat has made me very unhappy since he entered the door. You go over and give him 2 slaps to wake him up. Okay. The burly man nodded and walked towards Li Changsheng with a sinister smile. Brat, how dare you be rude to our boss? I'll teach you a lesson. As he spoke, he raised his palm. This burly man was more than 9 meters tall. His large hands were like palm leaf fans. One could see that his hands were covered with calluses. At first glance, one could tell that he was a martial artist. His skills were probably stronger than the bodyguard hired by Ren Juntang. If this palm landed, an ordinary person would have a few teeth knocked out. The bodyguard felt that he was useless after coming to Nanyang. When he saw the other party coming, he stepped forward, wanting to help Li Changsheng block it. However, Li Changsheng shook his head, indicating that he did not need to move. When the other party's palm landed, he easily reached out and grabbed the other party's wrist. The difference in size between Li Changsheng and the other party was very large. However, when Li Changsheng grabbed the other party's wrist, the other party's hand could not be swatted down no matter what. At the same time, he wanted to withdraw his hand, but he felt a sharp pain in his wrist. It was as if an iron clamp was stuck. His face finally changed color. Originally, Zhao Dahu's subordinates were waiting to watch the show. However, they suddenly realized that something was wrong. F***CK. This brat has some skills. The burly man felt some pain from Li Changsheng's grip on his wrist. He immediately clenched his other hand into a fist and punched towards Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng grabbed his other wrist again. Without waiting for him to make his next move, Li Changsheng raised his foot and kicked him in the stomach. Immediately, the burly man took 3 steps back. Before he could stabilize his body, Li Changsheng had already stuck close to him like a shadow. With a simple shingy boxing move, his shoulder hit the other party's chest. In the next second, the burly man flew back and fell to the ground. The powerful force caused the entire room to shake. At this moment, Zhao Dahu's subordinates were all stunned. They did not expect Li Changsheng's skills to be so good. Even Zhao Dahu revealed a bit of surprise. Hee hee. No wonder you dare to come to my territory and behave so atrociously. Zhao Dahu's face had a cold smile. To be able to defeat my subordinates means that you are also an expert. Then I will give you a chance. Zhao Dahu took out a Type 54 pistol from his pocket and opened the safety. Since you dare to come to me, Zhao Dahu, for goods, then you should be prepared to die. Aren't our martial arts quite good? How about this? Let's make a bet. I will shoot at you. If you can dodge the bullet, I will give you the goods. How about it, brat? Do you dare to bet? Chapter 645. You can't bet with him. Rin Juntang and Pang Tai said at the same time. To Rin Juntang, although Li Chongqing's move that sent the burly man flying was beautiful, he didn't think that a person's reaction speed could allow them to dodge a bullet. As for Pang Tai, he didn't dare to let Li Chongqing take the risk. If anything happened to Li Chongqing, Gu Mangong would skin him alive. Haha, kid, if you don't dare to bet, then obediently give me 1,000,000. Don't waste my time and don't test my patience. In 3 days, either you give me the money or I sell the goods. I'll bet with you. Li Chongqing directly interrupted Zhao Dahu's words. What? Zhao Dahu suddenly opened his eyes wide. He just casually said that he wanted to use a gun to intimidate Li Chongqing. Who would have thought that Li Chongqing would actually dare to agree? Were all the youngsters nowadays so crazy? Rin Juntang and Pang Tai looked at Li Chongqing in disbelief. They thought, Li Chongqing must be crazy. What did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Zhao Dahu said with a face of surprise. I said, I agree to bet with you. Li Chongqing said word by word. Zhao Dahu couldn't help but laugh. There are really people who are looking for death these days. I've learned something new. Li Chongqing ignored Zhao Dahu's mockery. Instead, he said to Pang Tai and Rin Juntang, move aside. Make some space so you don't get hurt. Mr. Li, you can't. You don't have to be angry with Zhao Dahu. Pang Tai said as he was about to reveal his identity. Listen to me. Li Chongqing shook his head. You should have seen your boss's skills. Dodging a bullet is actually nothing. Li Chongqing's words made Pang Tai hesitate. He didn't believe in Li Chongqing, but he had seen his boss's miraculous abilities. Not to mention one gun. Even 10 guns fired at the same time couldn't hurt Gu Mangong. But was this Mr. Li as strong as his boss? No wonder he was suspicious. Li Chongqing did not look like an expert at all. At this moment, Li Chongqing took a few steps forward and said coldly, Open fire. You're courting death. Zhao Dahu was also a ruthless person, and his hands were stained with blood over the years. As soon as Li Chongqing finished speaking, he raised his hand and pulled the trigger. Bang! There was a huge explosion. Rin Juntang and Pang Tai's minds went blank. Zhao Dahu had a cold smile on his face. However, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. This was because the moment Zhao Dahu opened fire, Li Chongqing had already disappeared from his previous position. When Li Chongqing reappeared, he was standing there unscathed. He had actually dodged the bullet. How is it? Boss Zhao, shouldn't you fulfill your promise? Li Chongqing said calmly. Only then did Zhao Dahu react. He did not hesitate to fire 3 shots at Li Chongqing's position. The bullets flew out in a triangle shape, locking onto Li Chongqing's movements on the left and right. This Zhao Dahu was actually an expert with guns. However, in the next moment, Li Chongqing's figure disappeared again. The 3 bullets still did not hit him. How is this possible? Zhao Dahu was just about to continue firing when he felt a blur in front of his eyes. Then, the gun in his hand disappeared. Li Chongqing had already appeared beside him. The gun was actually in Li Chongqing's hand. Boss Zhao, you should be honest as a person. Li Chongqing casually threw the gun at his feet. Then, he stared into Zhao Dahu's eyes and said word by word, Now, get someone to return the goods to me. Otherwise, I can take your life at any time. Zhao Dahu subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Being stared at by Li Chongqing made his hair stand on end. He had been in Southeast Asia for many years. He had heard that there were people who were strong enough to ignore guns. He always thought that people were exaggerating. He did not expect to meet such a person today. Okay, I'll return the goods to you. Zhao Dahu really did not dare to gamble with his own life. With that, Zhao Dahu immediately called his subordinates to release the goods. Rin Juntang also called the person in charge of the transportation. After a series of operations, they waited for both sides to hand over the goods. Li Changsheng and the others also found a place to sit down. They waited for the handover to be completed before leaving. Although Zhao Dahu was more than 10 meters away from Li Changsheng, he did not dare to act rashly. He already had a shadow in his heart towards Li Changsheng. Do you think that Zhao Dahu will play some tricks? Is he going to give the goods to us so easily? Rin Juntang said in a low voice. It's okay. If he dares to play any tricks, let me deal with him. Pang Tai patted his chest and promised. This time, it was supposed to be his fault. He did not expect that he did not intervene from the beginning to the end. Looks like you really need to deal with him, Li Changsheng suddenly said, and looked towards the direction of the door. Soon, a series of messy footsteps could be heard. A group of strong men in black rushed in. Each of them had a fierce aura. After seeing these people, Zhao Dahu's face immediately glowed. When he called his subordinates to release the goods, he had already hinted to them to get help. Now, help was finally here. How dare you play with me, Zhao Dahu? Kid, you really don't know what's good for you. Zhao Dahu stared fiercely at Li Changsheng. He was not afraid of Li Changsheng's terrifying skills at all. Among the strong men who came in, a man who was dressed very seductively walked out. He was obviously a man, but his lips were painted red. His fingers were painted red with red nail polish. He gave off a very seductive feeling. After the other party appeared, Zhao Dahu immediately went up to him. In the office of the general manager of the ocean logistics, He Xian was listening to his subordinate's report. This Li Changsheng really went to look for Zhao Dahu to ask for the goods. With Zhao Dahu's character, I'm afraid that he will ask for an exorbitant price. This will teach him a lesson. Let him understand that although the transportation fee is higher when working with our He family, if he works with those small companies, his losses will be enough to make him vomit blood. Some money has to be spent. Mr. He is right. Just now, our people saw Song Mingli go into the Golden Shady Hall. The middle-aged man beside him said with a flattering face, It's Dragon King A.O. Sen's #1 general, Song Mingli. Why would he be alarmed? He Xian's fingers tapped on the table. He did not understand. That Li Changsheng probably used some connections to force Zhao Dahu to call out his backer. The subordinate guessed. What you said makes sense. He Xian nodded his head. I didn't expect that this kid from a mainland would have some connections in Nanyang. But since Song Mingli is involved, then this matter won't be so simple. Song Mingli is famous for eating people without spitting out the bones. I'm afraid that his ransom will be doubled. This is good too. The more he loses this time, the more he will recognize the situation. When the time comes, he will definitely come to our door and beg to work with our He family. That's right. He's just a foreigner. If he dares to fight with Mr. He, isn't he courting death? His subordinate flattered him in a way that was neither light nor heavy. He Xian couldn't help but laugh. He drank a mouthful of tea and instantly felt comfortable. Chapter 646. The young man walked into the disco, and Zhao Dahu hurriedly greeted him. Master Song, you're finally here. This brat knows that I'm your man. Yet he didn't follow the rules and threatened to kill me. After seeing Zhao Dahu, the young man's eyes showed a bit of disdain, but he still patiently let Zhao Dahu tell him the ins and outs of the matter. His eyes immediately lit up when he heard that Zhao Dahu had seized a ship worth tens of millions of yuan. Song Mingli was Dragon King A.O. Sen's subordinate. Although he dressed like a sissy, he was famous for his ruthlessness. However, he was even more famous for his greed for money. He had an almost crazy obsession with money. You want to take the goods without spending a penny? How can there be such a logic in this world? Song Mingli took out a handkerchief and wiped his hands as he looked at Li Changsheng. Zhao Dahu just said that you can dodge bullets. You're an expert. Only those who have reached the Grandmaster realm can have such strength. Although I don't have any Grandmaster realm experts under me, I brought a few rifles today. I wonder if they can deal with you? As soon as Song Mingli's voice fell, several strong men behind him walked out and pointed more than 10 guns at Li Changsheng. Although Grandmaster realm experts in the secular world could indeed dodge bullets, there was a limit. For example, if more than 10 guns were fired at the same time, even the most powerful Grandmaster would be shot into a hornet's nest. Unfortunately, Song Mingli was wrong about one thing. Li Changsheng was not a Grandmaster realm expert, but a cultivator who even Grandmasters regarded as gods. Moreover, with Pang Tai here, Li Changsheng did not intend to show off his immortal magic for everyone to see. However, while Li Changsheng was calm, Ren Juntang and the bodyguards next to him had extremely ugly expressions. They looked at Pang Tai at a loss. Quickly reveal your identity. Otherwise, if they open fire, we'll be shot into a hornet's nest. Pang Tai looked at Li Changsheng with an inquiring gaze. Li Changsheng did not say anything, so he did not dare to make a decision. Song Mingli had the situation under control. He wiped the chair beside him with a handkerchief and sat down. He asked Zhao Dao, "How much ransom did you ask them to pay at the beginning?" 1 million. Zhao Dao whispered. Goods worth tens of millions only need a ransom of 1 million. Tell them to take out 10 million or else sell the goods. Yes, 10 million. Now, that Zhao Dao had a backer. His back was as straight as a pencil. Not only do I have to fork out 10 million, that brat who dared to threaten me earlier must kneel down and apologize to me. Zhao Dao said with a sneer. Song Mingli nodded. Originally, he didn't like Zhao Dao very much. However, seeing that Zhao Dao had earned so much money for him this time, he allowed him to intimidate others. How is it? Get someone to transfer the 10 million to my card immediately. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of this room today. Song Mingli took out a small mirror from his pocket and tidied up his hair. 10 million is a good suggestion. How about this? You give us 10 million as compensation for detaining our goods and delaying our work. Then, I'll let you off. How about that? Li Changsheng's voice had a tinge of playfulness. What did you say? Song Mingli, who was tidying up his hair, suddenly raised his head with a tinge of shock in his eyes. Zhao Dao and the others at the side were also stunned. They thought to themselves, is this brat crazy? How dare he talk to Song Mingli like that? You want me to compensate you with 10 million? Brat, do you know what you're saying? Song Mingli licked his lips. Those who were familiar with him knew that this was a sign that he was about to get angry. Of course, I know what I'm saying. Not only do you have to compensate me with 10 million, but you also have to kneel down and apologize to me. Li Changsheng stood up. He was a little dispirited and felt that there was no need to continue pretending. It was like a person watching ants moving by the roadside. At first, he felt that it was quite interesting, but gradually he lost interest. Brat, who gave you the guts to talk to me like that? Song Mingli's eyes revealed a tinge of coldness. It's him who gave me the guts. Li Changsheng pointed at Pang Tai, who was sitting there. Who is he? Song Mingli looked at Pang Tai and asked curiously. Mr. Song, I think it's better for you to do as Mr. Li says. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even your boss will be harmed by you. Who exactly are you? Song Mingli frowned. When Pang Tai stood up, he felt a little uneasy in his heart. Mr. Song, you're really forgetful. At the beginning of this year, I had tea with your boss. I remember that you were standing outside the door at that time. It's actually you. Song Mingli's expression changed drastically. He was Gu Mangong's #1 subordinate. The last time he met with his boss, he could only stand guard outside. It's over. I can't believe I've offended him. Song Mingli's heart trembled. Although he was cold by nature, he knew who he could offend and who he could not. To be able to make a name for himself in Nanyang, he did not only rely on his cruel methods, but also on his ability to judge the situation. Pang Tai said coldly, Mr. Li is our boss Gu's VIP. You dare to offend him and steal his goods. Mr. Li is magnanimous and only asked you to compensate 10 million and kneel down and kowtow. Otherwise, with our boss Gu's temper, you, Song Mingli, will no longer exist in Nanyang tomorrow. As he said that, he said coldly, kneel down. Song Mingli's body trembled. When he met Pang Tai's cold gaze, He gritted his teeth and knelt on the ground with a thud. Kowtow 3 times and scram. Send the 10 million to the Gu Manor tomorrow. Yes, yes. I'll definitely deliver it on time. Song Mingli kowtowed 3 times to the ground. There were bloodstains on his forehead. It was obvious that he had used all his strength. Seeing that Song Mingli was tactful, Pang Tai nodded and looked at Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, how do you want to deal with him? Forget it. They're just a bunch of ants. However, that Zhao Dao dared to go back on his words. Just break one of his legs. Hearing this, Zhao Dahu was so scared that his face turned pale. He wanted to beg for mercy, but Li Changsheng had already walked out of the disco. Pang Tai, Ren Juntang, and the bodyguards followed closely behind. There was no need for Pang Tai to do something like breaking a leg. Song Mingli would do it well. Li Changsheng left after that. Zhao Dahu gritted his teeth and said, Mr. Song, I'm the one who caused this trouble. Please break one of my legs. Zhao Dahu was a tough nut to crack. Unexpectedly, Song Mingli shook his head. You caused me to lose 10 million and offended Gu Mangong's people. They're magnanimous and only want to break one of your legs. However, we have to show our sincerity. Don't worry, your wife and children will not be implicated by you. Hearing Song Mingli's words, Zhao Dahu sat on the ground with a thud. His eyes were filled with despair. He knew that he was finished. Chapter 647. Li Changsheng didn't know what happened after he left. Originally, he thought that breaking Zhao Dahu's leg was already a severe punishment, but he didn't expect Song Mingli to be even more ruthless. Where are we going next? Pang Tai was finally able to play a role in this matter. His anxious heart finally relaxed. Moreover, after spending a long time with Li Changsheng, he found that Li Changsheng wasn't a difficult person to get along with. In addition, Li Changsheng's martial arts skills made him respect Li Changsheng even more. Next, we should find a maritime transportation company to cooperate with. Li Changsheng asked Ren Juntang to select a few shipping companies in Nanyang and finally chose a company called Yuanhua. The few of them went straight to the company's door to pay a visit. When the other party heard that Li Changsheng and the He family didn't come to an agreement, they didn't dare to cooperate with Li Changsheng at first, for fear of being suppressed by the He family. After all, the He family was an overlord in Nanyang, especially in the industry. But after knowing the identity of Pang Tai, who followed Li Changsheng, their doubts were immediately dispelled, and the two parties immediately signed the contract. Li Changsheng came to Nanyang to do 2 things. One was smoothly completed, and the next was to find a cultivation disciple. This kind of thing can't be rushed in a short time. After Li Changsheng and the others came out of Yuanhua, He Xian also received a message from his subordinate. What did you say? That Li Changsheng signed a contract with a small company? How is this possible? It must be that Li Changsheng deliberately released a smoke bomb to make us anxious. Don't pay attention to it. In 2 days you will come to beg me. He Xian hung up the phone with a sneer on his face. This surnamed Li has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, daring to play this game with me. It seems that I have to give him a higher price. Just as He Xian was talking to himself, suddenly the office door was pushed open and a company executive rushed in. He Xian couldn't help but frown. What's the situation? Why are you in such a panic? Mr. He, I just received news that Zhao Dahu is dead. What? He Xian's eyes were filled with shock. What's going on? Tell me in detail. That Li Changsheng went to Zhao Dahu's place and seemed to have gotten into a conflict with Zhao Dahu. Because of this, Zhao Dahu even brought out Song Mingli. Who knew that not long after Song Mingli went in, that Li Changsheng and the others left unscathed. Then, not long after, news spread that Zhao Dahu was dead. It seems that Song Mingli personally killed him. What's going on? Why would Song Mingli kill Zhao Dahu? What else did you hear? He Xian's mind was in a mess. I've sent someone to inquire about this from Zhao Dahu's disco. They said that Li Changsheng has a strong background and seems to be related to Boss Gu. You mean Gu Mangong? He Xian stood up from the chair with a tongue sound and then slapped his thigh fiercely. It's over. This Li Changsheng is actually Gu Mangong's man. No wonder he's so arrogant. With Gu Mangong as a shield, he naturally doesn't need to cooperate with our He family. Moreover, no matter which company he finds, our He family won't dare to suppress that company. It's equivalent to obtaining a death exemption card. Soon, he will become our He family's competitor. What should we do? That executive was also a little dumbfounded. Just half a day ago, they were still waiting to see Li Changsheng make a fool of himself. They didn't expect the situation to change so drastically in the blink of an eye. The cooperation with Junka Group is the best choice that I can prove to the elders in my family. It can't be ruined like this. Call Rin Juntang and tell him that we are willing to lower the price to the lowest. We only hope that they can cooperate with us. Yes, that executive immediately nodded. However, after dialing the number, he hung up with an ugly expression after saying a few words. Rin Juntang said that they have already signed a contract with another company and won't change it. Moreover, our He family has no integrity at all and will not cooperate with us in the future. He Xian scratched his head and only felt that there was a huge stone in his heart. Cooperating with Junka Group was very beneficial to him. It could make the elders in his family who were against him inheriting the family business shut up. Moreover, Li Changsheng knew Gu Mangong. If he could build this relationship and get to know Gu Mangong, it would be very beneficial to his entire family. It was a pity that he rejected such an opportunity. It was too late to regret it now. The matter of the goods had been settled. Rin Juntang and the bodyguard took a plane back to the mainland the next day. However, Li Changsheng didn't go back with them. Instead, he stayed in a villa with Gu Mangong. Sir, there's a spirit vein under this villa that is suitable for cultivation. I usually stay here. There were clouds and mist lingering in the villa. It was a scene that appeared when the concentration of spirit energy reached a certain level. Gu Mangong was Li Changsheng's most talented subordinate. Sir, when you disappeared back then, you left a letter saying that you would return one day. We all thought that you were lying to us. Gu Mangong was a little emotional when he talked about what happened 30 years ago. Back then, your appearance changed the fate of many of us. Qi Yu, Su Xiaolin, and Chu Yaotian. You even took Xiao Ji as your disciple. However, it was a pity that he was rebellious. In the 9th year after you left, he betrayed the sect and took away the treasured sword that you left behind. Back then, I went to reason with him, but he broke one of my fingers. All these years, I have been trying to track him down, but he seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. However, I recently received some news that he seemed to have joined a mysterious force. I am currently sending people to investigate, but there are no results yet. Hearing Gu Mangong's words, Li Changsheng went into deep thought. In his mind, a young and proud face gradually became clear. In his previous life, when he was traveling the world, he met Gu Mangong, Su Xiaolin, and Qi Yu. These three people were very much to his liking. Unfortunately, among the three of them, only Gu Mangong had the talent for cultivation. Qi Yu and Su Xiaolin could only be kings in the secular world at most. Li Changsheng nurtured the three of them. Later on, when the three of them had just started their careers, Li Changsheng met a fourth person, Ji Lushui. At that time, Ji Lushui was just an orphan, but he was born with an innate sword constitution. When Li Changsheng first saw Ji Lushui, he knew that he was like a lone wolf in his bones, unwilling to submit to others. However, such a constitution was too special. In the end, Li Changsheng could not help but take him in as his disciple. He hoped that even if he was hostile to the entire world, it would be enough for him to be grateful to his master. It was a pity that he had chosen the wrong person. Back then, Li Changsheng casually created a sect called the Changsheng sect. He became the sect master and planned to pass down his teachings. Before he went into a deep sleep, he handed the Changsheng sect to Ji Lushui to manage. This was also a gift he left for his disciple. However, he did not know that 9 years after he went into a deep sleep, Ji Lushui's swordsmanship had reached great success. He directly changed the teachings left by Li Changsheng and pushed Li Changsheng's Changsheng sect down from the altar. He also changed the name of the Changshan sect to the Xinyuan sect. He even took away Li Changxing's natal artifact from the forbidden area of the Changshan sect, completely betraying Li Changxing. Li Changxing's followers were furious. Gu Mangong, who was the strongest, went to find Ji Lushui to demand an explanation. However, he lost a finger. That natal artifact sword was refined with my blood. It will be found sooner or later. Investigate it well. If there is news of Ji Lushui, you must inform me immediately. Li Changsheng said to Gu Mangong. Of course. Sir, you can stay in this villa first. I have already sent my subordinates to look for people with the potential to cultivate. However, there's only 1 in 10,000 ordinary people who can embark on the path of cultivation. I'm afraid it will take a long time to find anything. It's okay. I'll wait patiently. Li Changsheng then stayed in Gu Mangong's villa with peace of mind. He cultivated in seclusion every day and lived a life far away from the city. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. On this day, Gu Mangong came to look for Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, just yesterday my subordinates found a genius disciple. The purple talisman that you gave him instantly burned to ashes. I plan to go and take a look myself. Hearing Gu Mangong's words, Li Changxing's eyes revealed a hint of joy. The talismans that he gave Gu Mangong were divided into white talismans, yellow talismans, and purple talismans. The white talisman was the lowest level, while the purple talisman was the highest. If the purple talisman burned on its own, it meant that the spiritual energy in the other party's body had reached a very rich level. There were only 2 possibilities for such a situation. The first was that the other party was an expert who had cultivated for many years. The second was that the other party had some kind of innate spiritual body or an unusual dormant bloodline in his body. That is a young man, only 15 years old. He has never had a master, and his family is only an ordinary business family. Therefore, we can rule out the possibility that he has cultivated before. Gu Mangong was also a little excited. It had been 3 months, and he had sent out wave after wave of subordinates, but they had not found anything. Today, there was finally news, and it was very likely that the person was a cultivation genius. How could he not be happy? Chapter 648. Do you need me to go with you? Li Changxing asked. Since the other party was very likely to be a cultivation genius, he wanted to take a look for himself. Mr. Li, I'm going to find you this time because I need your help with something. Gu Mangong said, over the years that I've been in Nanyang, my power has grown bigger and bigger. My subordinates are also a mix of good and bad people. They are divided into several camps and are fighting openly and secretly. Li Changxing nodded. Wherever there were people, there would be conflicts. Moreover, Gu Mangong was such a powerful force. How could there be no conflicts? Originally, I didn't care how they fought secretly. After all, I couldn't ask them to be of the same mind. However, I've taken in a foster son who is very compatible with my temperament. I plan to pass my foundation to him and then find an old forest to cultivate in seclusion. I want to reach the Earth Immortal realm as soon as possible. I've wasted too much energy in the secular world over the years. Ever since I stepped into the profound finger realm, my cultivation has stagnated. However, ever since I took in my foster son, the various forces under me have started to become restless. Moreover, many of them have colluded with external forces. I'm afraid that once I leave Nanyang to cultivate in seclusion, there will be chaos within my camp. My foster son might not even be able to keep his life, let alone take over my foundation. These people aren't very capable in other aspects, but they are very good at scheming. Even I can't find out who is colluding with external forces. Recently, as my foster son has been taking over, many people with ulterior motives can no longer sit still and are ready to make a move. However, with me around, they don't dare to make a move. This time, when I leave Nanyang, I'm sure many people will show their tails. However, if I'm not around, my foster son won't be able to control the situation at all. Therefore, I'd like to ask Mr. Li to help me stay in Nanyang and lure those snakes, insects, rats, and ants out. Then, I'll catch them all in one fell swoop. After Gu Mangong finished speaking, there was some urgency in his eyes. What he meant was that he really treated his foster son as his own. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put in so much effort. All right, I'll help you. Li Chongqing nodded. Thank you, Mr. Li. When Gu Mangong heard Li Chongqing's agreement, he heaved a sigh of relief. He had always revered Li Chongqing from the bottom of his heart. From the first time he saw Li Chongqing more than 30 years ago until now, Li Chongqing's appearance had never changed. In the past, his strength was low, and he couldn't see through Li Chongqing's depth. But now, he was already a finger-profound realm expert. Standing in front of Li Chongqing, he still felt as if he was facing a vast ocean. He looked up to a high mountain, and he himself was as lowly as an ant. My subordinates don't know Mr. Li's strength, so once I leave, they will definitely not be able to hold back and make a move. Mr. Li, you have to remember one thing. You have to make them give themselves away, but you can't make it a complete mess. Otherwise, even if I can come back and clean up the mess, the foundation I built will be riddled with holes. I understand. Li Chongqing nodded. He knew that this was the main reason why Gu Mangong had put in so much effort to set up this trap. He wanted to ferret out those people with bad intentions, but he also didn't want his own power to be damaged too much. He wanted to hand over a prosperous empire to his adopted son. Then, Mr. Li, I'll set off now. I've already arranged for someone to pick you up tomorrow. I'll leave this place to you. Gu Mangong bowed to Li Chongqing, then turned and left. The next day, a black Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of the villa. A young man in a suit walked in. He was very handsome and had fair skin, but his face was cold, as if the whole world owed him money. Li Chongqing didn't need to think to know that this was Gu Mangong's adopted son, Shun Kwa. Father asked me to come. He must have already told you his plan. Next, we'll proceed according to the plan. The other party looked at Li Chongqing suspiciously and added, Father said that you can help me, but I don't know what you're good at. The other party obviously didn't believe Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing waved his fist. My strength is that my fists are hard enough. Is that so? I heard that you can dodge bullets, but in the end, you still needed Xian to help you. Otherwise, if Song Mingli's subordinates fired at you together, you would have been shot into a sieve. After that, he gestured for Shun Kwa to get in. The other party didn't bring a chauffeur and drove here himself. Li Chongqing opened the car door and sat in the back seat. Shun Kwa frowned slightly. The back seat had always been for the leaders. Since Shun Kwa was driving, only Gu Mangong had the right to sit in the back. However, Li Chongqing was left behind by Gu Mangong to help him, so Shun Kwa didn't say anything even though he was unhappy. Today is the first day that Father left. I've already received news that many forces have started to take action. It seems that they have been suppressed for too long. They are like hungry beasts that can't wait to bare their claws and teeth once they smell blood. I don't know why Father kept you by my side. Is it to protect me? Actually, there's no need for that. I have more than a dozen bodyguards who are proficient in marksmanship. Even a professional assassin wouldn't have a chance to hurt me. If even my bodyguards can't block the attack, I don't think a martial arts expert like you would be of any use. Shun Kwa's words and actions gave people a feeling of being thousands of miles away. He was as cold as a piece of cold iron, which was completely different from Gu Mangong's arrogance. Shun Kwa didn't know why Gu Mangong chose him to be his successor and inherit his wealth. However, from Shun Kwa's words, it was obvious that he didn't know about the existence of cultivators. Otherwise, he wouldn't have doubted Li Chongqing's strength. There will be an internal meeting later. Father won't be here, so I'll host it today. It will also officially release a signal to all the forces with bad intentions that I will be in power. This signal will make those who are already ready to take action. I call this plan luring the snake out of its hole. However, Father won't be here, so I'm afraid there will be more snakes. In fact, I don't agree with Father's plan because the risk is too high. However, I will never oppose Father's words. I believe that he has his reasons for making such arrangements. Shun Kwa started the car as he spoke. He was very good at driving. The road wasn't flat, but Li Changsheng didn't feel any bumps. Shen Kuo turned around and glanced at Li Changsheng. What he wanted to say was obvious. Li Changsheng was the only trump card that Gu Mangong had left for Shen Kuo. However, Shen Kuo didn't see how useful this trump card would be. However, Li Changsheng wouldn't explain anything. After this short interaction, he had some understanding of Shen Kuo. At first glance, Shen Kuo seemed arrogant and unapproachable. However, he listened to Gu Mangong's every word. Even though he felt that this plan was very risky, he still carried it out meticulously. This was what a loyal person was like. Shen Kuo thought back to the disciple that he had accepted back then. In terms of talent, he wasn't inferior to Zhuang Hua, who he had killed. However, he lacked the word loyalty. Perhaps Gu Mangong had chosen him because of Ji Lu Shui. When Li Changsheng had accepted Ji Lu Shui as his disciple, Gu Mangong had been the first to object, saying that this person was rebellious. However, Li Changsheng hadn't listened to him. The reason he took in such a godson was to tell Li Changsheng that he was the right one. This Gu Mangong's personality hasn't changed at all. After seeing through Gu Mangong's thoughts, Li Changsheng only felt that it was funny. Gu Mangong, Qi Yu, and Su Xiaolin were Li Changsheng's followers in name. However, they were also Li Changsheng's students. In the end, Li Changsheng had given Ji Lu Shui the status of master and disciple, but they hadn't received it. How could Li Changsheng not know that the three of them had some resentment in their hearts? Chapter 649. On the way, Li Changsheng sat in the back of the car and closed his eyes to rest. The car quickly entered the city and stopped in front of a tea house. The tea house was built in a Chinese style. Most of the decorations were made of wood, and the environment was very elegant. Shen Kuo led Li Changsheng to the innermost part of the tea house. Shen Kuo was obviously a regular here. A few waiters took the initiative to smile and greet him when they saw him. However, Li Changsheng saw a trace of fear in the waiter's eyes. As the saying went, power and status were determined by one's bottom. As Gu Mangong's adopted son, Shen Kuo was a very popular person in Nanyang. In the eyes of the waiters, he was no different from a high and mighty figure. Everyone inside is a veteran who has been with my adopted father for many years. Today is a semi-private gathering. In other words, it's called by my adopted father's #1 general, Pang Tai. However, everyone knows that this is my first step to the top. Don't speak rashly in case you cause trouble. Shen Kuo whispered to Li Changsheng as he walked. Li Changsheng didn't say anything. When they opened the door, there were more than 10 people sitting in the room. Their average age was above 40. Li Changsheng immediately recognized Pang Tai, who was sitting in the innermost part of the room. There were also a few people who looked familiar to Li Changsheng. When Li Changsheng and Shen Kuo entered, they immediately looked at the two of them in surprise. They couldn't figure out why Li Changsheng was here. Mr. Shen, as a junior, you made us wait for more than half an hour. Isn't that a little too much? Because Shen Kuo was the general manager of a company under Gu Mangong, the other party addressed him as Mr. Shen. Before the two of them could sit down, someone had already stood up to make things difficult for them. Today's meeting didn't bode well. Mr. Ma, you must be joking. I remember that the meeting time was 9 o'clock. There's still 2 minutes left. I'm not late. Shen Kuo smiled and sat down beside Pang Tai with Li Changsheng. Mr. Li. Pang Tai took the initiative to greet Li Changsheng when he saw him. Li Changsheng was also sizing up Pang Tai. Among the people present today, Pang Tai clearly held an important position. However, Li Changsheng did not know which faction he belonged to. Did he support Shen Kuo, or was he as ambitious and scheming as the others? Although Li Changsheng's Tao was profound, he could see through all things in the world, but he could not see through people's hearts. However, since Pang Tai had greeted him, Li Changsheng returned a smile. The old man who had spoken earlier, however, looked at Li Changsheng with hostility in his eyes. Your boss Gu's friend? Today is our internal meeting. Isn't it inappropriate for an outsider like you to be here? The other party was like a hedgehog with thorns all over its body. He had shown hostility toward Shen Kuo as soon as he entered, and now he was pointing his spear at Li Changsheng. Clearly, Li Changsheng and Shen Kuo had entered together and were considered enemies. The enemy of a friend is a friend, and the friend of an enemy is naturally an enemy as well. Foster father asked him to accompany me, Shen Kuo said coldly, although he did not think that bringing Li Changsheng would be of any use. Li Changsheng was still on his side, so he had to protect him. That's enough. Everyone, be more polite. We're all family. Don't be hostile. Another chubby guy squinted his eyes as he spoke. His eyes narrowed into small slits, giving people a sense of intimacy. Li Changsheng could clearly sense the deep fear in Shen Kuo's eyes. Clearly, Shen Kuo thought that this guy with squinty eyes was more threatening than the old man with thorns all over his body. Boss Jean is right. Everyone should be more polite. A scholarly man wearing gold-rimmed glasses spoke. He was the youngest and most handsome person present besides Shen Kuo. Gu Mangong had once said that he had a scholarly general under him. He was young but very intelligent. He was in charge of managing the intelligence network established by Gu Mangong's subordinates. He was very loyal to Gu Mangong, but he did not support Gu Mangong's foster son, Shen Kuo. They even had many conflicts in the dark. Li Changsheng finally figured out the identities of these people. The old man with thorns all over his body and the smell of gunpowder was the true elder who had followed Gu Mangong to conquer the world. His surname was Ma, and his name was Ma Fei. People called him Lord Ma. He was vicious and had a bad temper. He was infamous for being vicious and merciless. The chubby guy with a face full of fat was surnamed Jean. People called him Smiling Tiger. The scholarly middle-aged man was called Gong Zhu Hong. These three people, together with Pang Tai, were called the four great generals under Gu Mangong. However, they were different from Pang Tai. Although Pang Tai held great power, he relied on Gu Mangong's attention. He was like the imperial bodyguards of ancient emperors. As for the other three, they were more like officials of the border, establishing their own small kingdoms under Gu Mangong. These four people were the biggest obstacle to Shen Kuo's ascension. This was because once Gu Mangong was not around, Shen Kuo's experience and methods would not be enough to control them. I asked Mr. Pang to gather everyone here, because I have something to tell everyone. My foster father left Nanyang yesterday and asked me to take over the work in Nanyang. I hope that everyone can cooperate with me in the future. Shen Kuo cleared his throat and spoke. Of course. Who asked you to be Boss Gu's foster son? Lord Ma's tone was still sarcastic. However, Shen Kuo did not mind. He seemed to be used to it. He continued, It's like this. My foster father left this time with the intention of letting me take over all the businesses under his name. The next time he comes back, he will not interfere with the company's matters. Shen Kuo threw out a huge bomb the moment he opened his mouth. It could be seen that everyone's expression had become strange. This was also something that Gu Mangong and Shen Kuo had discussed. As long as they knew that Shen Kuo was going to take over Gu Mangong's businesses, these ambitious people would not be able to resist taking action. This was because once Shen Kuo stabilized his position, it would not be easy for them to rebel. You, Shen Kuo, are Boss Gu's foster son. Since Boss Gu wants you to take over the businesses, we naturally have no objections. Lord Ma said coldly. The others did not say anything. Whether they were willing or not, it was obvious that no one wanted to jump out to oppose Shen Kuo at this time. They were all smart people. No one wanted to be the first one to be shot. Today, in addition to announcing this matter, there is another thing that I called you here. The newly opened branch companies lack management personnel. I want to transfer some people from your companies. Here is a list of personnel changes. Take a look. Shen Kuo pushed out a folder. After everyone had read it, the faces of a few people had completely darkened, transferring people in the name of setting up a new company to weaken their strength. This was the second big bomb that Shen Kuo threw out. As long as one had the intention to seize power, they would never watch as their power was weakened. Gu Mangong's plan was very simple. He wanted to force his subordinates to rebel. Mr. Shen wants to transfer people to the new company. Of course, I have no objections. However, Xian is my top general. Isn't it a bit too much to transfer him to the new company as the security manager? One of the founding members said unhappily. Yes, Xiaolong is my nephew. He is the vice president of my company. How can you ask him to run the construction site of the new company? How can you do this? I don't agree with this list. I don't agree with it either. Once someone started, everyone's emotions exploded. The room was in a mess. In particular, several founding members stared at Shun Kwa and slammed the table. Shun Kwa opened his mouth several times, but his voice was drowned out. Seeing that the situation was about to get out of control, Shun Kwa finally panicked. After all, he was still too young. How could he be a match for these old foxes? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.